Well, good evening,
What?
folks, and just want to give everybody a woo in the chat because we are going super deep into Xenoblade. So a quick word of warning: probably going to be some spoilers discussed in this. Probably going to be a lot of spoilers discussed. So if you haven't played
Yes, we will have a lot of spoilers in here. Yep.
yes. So if you haven't played Xenoblades 1 or Xenoblades 2, and you plan on doing that, I would absolutely say this is probably not the one for you because a lot of the
Yeah.
enjoyment in these games is derived from some of the absolute draw drops they're gonna throw your way. So I'm here
Yep.
with Nishquik, who is part of the renowned channel Nishquik Pops, which has some fantastic stuff. And I'll tell you what I'm actually most excited about this cat's channel is
hmm
he's got a ton of great um, stuff on Xenoblade that I can finally fucking go back and watch now and get some of his perspectives on it that he doesn't get into here. So I am super pumped to go in there and give some watches on some of those videos I've had to avoid for a while.
I hate to burst your bubble, Zoo,
Yeah.
but there's a handful of videos you can watch, but there's still a few I suggest you do not watch
Okay.
because, of course, there is Xenoblade 3 coming your way soon.
it's
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna be quick. I'm gonna have to jump in because that fucking ending. And now I'm
Yeah.
really excited for what Xenoblade 3 is going to bring. And so yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna talk. This is gonna be primarily Xenoblade centric. We'll get into some other stuff, but
Yeah.
we got to gush about Xenoblade 1, how it's set up brilliantly, Xenoblade 2, how these games are foils and play off each other, the philosophy
Yeah.
behind it. I've got I got a lot of stuff I want to talk about, and I got a lot of shit to get off my chest about this game. So I am I am fucking amped to get going here. But
Yeah. Let's
just
go.
tell everybody about yourself. Pretend like they don't know who you are.
Oh yeah. Well, hello, I'm Nishquik Pops, or just Nishquik for short. I have my channel Nishquik Pops, which Zoo was talking about, and yeah, I mostly cover JRPGs and Nintendo, and I'm really heavy in the JRPG stuff lately, which is like Xenoblade Chronicles, Fire Emblem, Tales of Persona. Persona is a big thing I talk about, and I'm not much of a news person, so you may not hear me talking like, oh, here are Nintendo Switch rumors, or here is like this rumor about this game. I mostly talk about the theme I have with my channel is my video game experiences, what things I have experienced with my time playing these games. And I have started to kind of hone in on that theme this year, and it's been a lot of fun making those kinds of videos. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. So yeah.
I come at things from a very similar angle. So
Yeah.
all video games, all art is always interrelated to the person viewing the art. I feel like so.
Oh yeah.
It's almost impossible for me to actually review a game in the objective fashion that a lot of reviewers strive for. That's not that I won't take a look. Like my my video essays that I do, I will talk about graphics. I'll talk about story. I'll talk about all the bells and whistles that make a game. But a good one third to sometimes 2/6 of that is going to be um like how I became interested in the game, the other things tangentially that I relate to the game outside of the game, and
Yeah.
Xenoblade is full of that. So when we last talked, we talked a little bit about Xenoblade 1, and Xenoblade 1 being kind of like Prometheus Unbound,
Yeah.
or like a revenge story such as Monte Cristo or Moby Dick in some ways,
Mhm.
paired with Prometheus Unbound. And you made the comment that you liken Xenoblade 2 to the Odyssey.
Well, that wasn't necessarily me. That was one of my friends
Okay.
who thought of that, but I also very much agree
Yeah.
because from what I remember of studying the Odyssey back in school, the Odyssey was like it was just a bunch of things happening. And like we as students were why are we studying this? Why do we even care? It's just a bunch of random things happening. We don't care. And then we kind of started to piece it together because that's what like we're being taught, like what is happening in the story, what it all means. And then once we understood, we are like, oh, okay, it means something. I will say this for Xenoblade 2. Um Xenoblade 2 for me I have a lot of stories to tell about Xenoblade in this conversation, but I'll say this right now. For me, I compare that game, like my experience with Xenoblade 2, if I could sum it up in one sentence, it would be it was an exercise in patience. For me specifically, it was an exercise in patience because there are many times where I was like, why isn't this like Xenoblade 1? I wish this was more like Xenoblade 1. Why is it like this? Why is it doing like that? Why is it doing like this? I don't understand what's happening here. I don't understand. But once it all ended, once you reach Elysium, once you do all that stuff, once you fight Malos, once you defeat Ion, once you like say goodbye to Numa and you like experience that ending, it all just clicked and it made sense with me. It made sense to me, and I was like, everything that happened before needed to happen so I could experience this beautiful, profound, amazing ending. It is my favorite ending to any like story, probably. I mean, that's just personally my opinion. There are obviously some very like really good endings in like movies, stories, books, games, but Xenoblade 2 is my favorite ending. But it was an exercise in patience. And I guess that's how you can sort of compare it to the Odyssey. When I was studying the Odyssey, I was like, oh, it's just whatever. And then I had to like bear through it, and then I understood it near the end. So
Well,
yeah.
I want to draw other parallels to the Odyssey too. So, for example, and again, for people that just came in, spoiler heavy. So last,
Yes, very
we will
spoiler heavy.
occasionally mention that to as new folks stream in, but this is gonna get spoilerific, honestly. So last
Yeah,
warning,
I
at least
already
until
touched on
more
some
people come in.
spoilers in what
Yeah,
I just said.
yeah, and again, last warning before more people stream in, we'll kind of mention it casually as we go on. But so when I relate this to the Odyssey, the reason I relate it to the Odyssey so hard is because again, this is a journey. Like you said, a lot of things are happening, but Odysseus, if you remember his goal was to get home to Ithaca, right?
Yes, yeah.
And yet, when he arrived at his home, things were not as he remembered or as he expected, were they?
Mhm.
That's what I'm getting at. So, what's super
Yeah, and that's
interesting about
exactly what happens to Rex when he arrives in Elysium. And I remember the last
yes,
talk we had, we had, you're like,
oh
"Oh,
yeah,
this is gonna happen, and like it's gonna happen one way or the other."
uh-huh.
And you were like, "I want it to happen where Rex goes to Elysium and he finds nothing," but you're like, "I don't think that's gonna happen." And I had to like forcibly force myself to not say anything because I was like, "Oh my god, I need to know what he feels about the ending," because yeah, it is very like I don't know if you probably might not have seen my video about Rex the character because it goes into like Xenoblade 2 endgame stuff and a little
Right.
bit of Xenoblade 3 stuff, but basically my cliff notes of that video is I appreciate Rex and he's an inspiration to me because he's a very positive and very like uplifting character. He always has good spirits. He is always very optimistic, and he just like is very like forward thinking when it comes to like his goals, right?
Hmm.
So when he was like, "Oh, we're gonna get to Elysium. It's all gonna be okay. It's all gonna be all right. Once we get there, we'll start a new life. We'll start a new like future." But then when he gets there and he sees that it's like absolutely
There's
nothing,
nothing there.
yeah, yeah, you could feel his sadness and his anguish, and you're like, no, not Rex.
And
Yeah,
and the way he dealt with that was that was the define, and that's what I wanted to see. That look on Rex's face. That's what I wanted to see. Because
yeah,
I wanted to
yeah,
see how his character, a character of so much positivity, of so much pluck, would deal with
yeah,
a stomach drop like that.
yeah. So I want to ask you specifically, since you played Xenoblade 1 all the way back on the Wii, and you were like one of the Operation Rainfall people back then, campaigning to Reggie and all the NOA people to bring it over to the West. I want
Right.
to ask you, having played Xenoblade 1 now, and have you played Xenoblade X? I want to ask you that as
Um,
well.
I delved a little bit into it, but my time into Xenoblade X is really limited to my ability to access a Wii U, which wasn't long.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
But
Xenoblade X is stuck on a dead hardware on the Wii U. It's very unfortunate, but that's whatever. But yeah, so Xenoblade
Nintendo,
1, yeah, I'm still hoping for that remaster, but
we need need a new Operation Rainfall to bring fucking Xenoblade Chronicles X
Yeah.
to the Switch.
Operation Mira, Operation Lifehold, let's call it that because that's what it's
Operation
called.
Lifehold. Yeah, that's the whole
Yeah,
goal of the game, right?
yeah, yeah,
Uh-huh.
exactly. But Xenoblade 1, you played that back all the way back then, and Xenoblade 2, you have recently played it and completed it. What do you think? First of all, I want to know like which one do you like? Which one do you prefer or like more? I guess. And what do you think about like the differences between the two games? Because there are noticeable differences.
Yeah, so in terms of just being a sheerly accessible RPG, I got to give it to Xenoblade 1.
Oh yeah,
Um
100%. I agree with that as well.
yeah, in terms of the story impact, I'm kind of in love with Xenoblade 2. I'm not going to lie.
Mm, that's
Um,
good to hear.
and there's a lot of reasons for that, and one that might actually be a very hot take for those who aren't as knowledgeable in their philosophy. But
Yeah.
Xenoblade 2, every once in a while, a game comes along that just speaks to your soul, you know.
Oh
And
yeah.
Amori
Yeah.
was one such game. When I played Amori, which Miss Mandia um, recommended to me, that
I
was
need to still play that. I think I'd really enjoy it from what I've seen. I've seen some of my friends play it, and I think I'd really enjoy that game.
Omori is another Odyssey game. It is an Odyssey of regret and loss. And I can't say
Yeah.
any more than that without spoiling it, but you need to check it out.
Yeah.
That's one that to me was just fucking incredible. Just held my attention in a way that and to me it's the genuine Earthbound sequel. You always hear
Okay.
people talk about Undertale as the Earthbound
Yeah,
sequel, but
Undertale.
I've played
Yeah.
Undertale, and I got to tell you, I don't agree. I think
Yeah.
Undertale is its
Did you
own
enjoy
thing.
Undertale though?
I did, but I think it's
I've not played it. I've not played it, and I'm very, very excited to give it a shot because I've heard just very, very good things about
well,
Undertale.
and again
So
with
I really
Undertale's
want to play it.
another one like Amori, which the less said the better, because there's a
Okay.
lot of emotional impact in that game too. But
Yeah,
to
yeah.
me, Undertale is different enough. I mean, I get
Mhm.
it was inspired by Earthbound, but to me, there's a difference between being inspired by something and being a spiritual successor to something.
Okay. Okay.
And Undertale does enough different to where I don't actually consider it an Earthbound successor. Now, Amori, that shit is an Earthbound successor.
Okay.
Um, in every which way imaginable.
Yeah.
But I can't say more. But back to Xenoblade, and what I
Yeah.
mean by the game speaks to me is that it is an examination of nihilism and pessimism.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I absolutely adore that about the game. Now, here's the hot take, and I'm going to explain it, but a lot of people who aren't familiar with the actual deep tenets of nihilism are going to disagree on this.
Mhm.
But Rex is actually an idealized nihilist. Now, what do you think?
Oh boy, no. No. You can't say that about Rex. I
I
mean, no,
can't.
I'm
I
very
I
curious to
can
no, I'm
because
actually very curious to hear what you have to say because I feel like there is a lot of nihilism in Xenoblade 2, but I feel the nihilism
it's all
comes.
about nihilism. It's all about
Yeah,
nihilism.
it is. I think the nihilism comes from the quote unquote adults in Xenoblade 2. And those people would be like Zeke, Morag, Amalthus, and Jin specifically. Jin is like the nihilist. Jin is the guy who's like, I don't care about anything anymore. I am so like everything has been taken away from me. I've lost so much in my life, and I don't see any point of fighting for any sort of future in this like decrepit, terrible, corrupt, rotten world. What can I do? Like, what else can I do except destroy the world? So that is the ultimate nihilist to me. But when you look at someone like Morag or Zeke, they're just a little more like, oh, we just don't have that youthful energy anymore. But this kid Rex, like, we need to kind of reconnect with our youthful and optimistic self with this guy.
Well, so
Amalthus is totally different, and Malos I don't really put him in the nihilism category. Malos is
no,
more of like,
no,
yeah,
he's
yeah.
driven.
Malos is completely different. Yeah.
Malos is a pessimist.
Mouse is a pessimist and he's just sad. He just wants to like figure out his true purpose in life, and he never
Yeah.
really had the opportunity to like
Well,
afford the chance to
and
like
and because
figure that out. Yeah.
of Amalthus being his driver,
Yeah.
he never got that opportunity, and that colored his entire worldview. Now Amalthus
Yeah.
is also not a nihilist. Amalthus is also a pessimist.
Yeah.
A pessimist with some serious daddy issues. But what I mean
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
nihilist, let's examine the true actually nihilistic characters, which is Jin
Hmm.
and Rex.
Rex. I'm so curious to hear what you have to say about
So
Rex.
this is what I mean by that. So there is a very large misunderstanding in popular culture about what constitutes nihilism, right?
Hmm.
So typically, what do you now? I guess we'll start. Let's define our terms as we would any philosophical discussion. Bet you didn't expect this tonight, by the way. But what
Yeah.
do you from the books you've read and the experiences you've had? How do you define nihilism? And then I'll tell you how I define
Ooh.
nihilism after reading
I've
Nietzsche and
never really
other
thought
nihilists.
about how I would define it. I guess I would just say someone who's jaded by personal experiences and just doesn't have much like outlook on the future, I guess.
Okay, so
Yeah.
and that is the most common perception, and you can be
Yeah.
forgiven for that 100% because that
Yeah.
is literally how nihilism is presented in just about every popular medium there is.
Yeah.
Nihilism is actually much more complex than that. And that's why I say that characters like Jin and Rex embody kind of the two polarities of nihilism. So we have to go back to Xenoblade Chronicles 1. So Xenoblade Chronicles 1, remember what happens at the end of that is that
Mhm.
you kill a god. And so that is God is dead, which is a very, very common trope of all of this guy's games. If you go back all the way to like,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
Xenogears,
yeah,
Xenosaga,
he's got
especially Xenogears.
this guy,
Xenogears,
yeah.
it's the thing from the start. The very start of the game is you have to destroy Deus.
Yes. So this guy has some real fucking animosity built up about the concept of God.
Yeah.
Now, what I've always been interested is, I've always said, and this is why I love this game so goddamn much, right? I've always said that what is it that okay, cool, we got it. God's dead. I want to see what the fuck are you gonna do? The perfect sequel to that game is what do you do once God is dead, right?
Mm,
So
yeah.
if you look at Klaus, the architect, I guess we'll say. Um, Klaus is a man. He's
Mhm.
not really a god, and that wasn't his intent in what he tried to gift the world.
Yeah.
He wanted to give mankind a chance, essentially.
Yeah.
And
His
in
other half did become a god, but
his other
the
half
half that
did,
remains,
uh-huh,
the half that remains that you see in Xenoblade 2 is full of regret and remorse, and he's like, I
mhm,
realize what I've done and I need to fix my wrongs.
exactly. So
Yeah.
one discovers Prometheus Unbound, which is where the creator or Frankenstein, where the created rises against the creator. So that's the story of Xenoblade 1.
Mhm.
Xenoblade 2 is the consequences of a world bereft of a god. Okay. So that's
Yeah.
kind of the setup for the nihilism. Now, nihilism, if you've ever read any of Friedrich Nietzsche or any other nihilist, nihilists ask a question, which is that if there is no God, if God is either dead or not existent in a given state of things, what fills that void? Okay, that's the question that nihilists grapple with. So essentially,
Mm.
it's not that life is meaningless. That's not
Mhm.
nihilism. That can be
Mhm.
nihilism for people who go off on one polarity. That would be Jin, who
Yeah.
after losing Laura couldn't deal anymore,
Mhm.
and came to that conclusion. But what the response of the other side of the philosophical argument in nihilism is that okay, life has no inherent meaning except the meaning that we give life. And
Okay.
that is the embodiment of Rex's character.
Oh, yeah.
Rex is
Rex is
yeah.
yeah.
Rex is a character
Rex
who said that, hey, this world, yeah, you're right. This world is dying. And you're right. This world is full of people that are selfish and evil and have given up. But let's make this world a better place, and let's give this world meaning through our actions.
Yeah.
And that's what I
Rex,
mean by he is an
yeah.
idealized nihilist.
Yeah. That makes sense. He's very one track minded in the sense that like he will stop at nothing to get to Elysium. Whatever it takes, he will get to Elysium. And that is his goal, that is his dream. And he wants Elysium for a more like optimistic approach. Like he's like, "Oh, let's go there. We'll start a new life. We'll start a future." Whereas Pyra slash Mithra want to go there to just sacrifice himself because they don't see a reason to live anymore, which was a very interesting twist. I I personally didn't see it coming, but then when I went back and watched the cutscenes, I was like, oh, of course, I kind of know, I kind of see why they want to go to Elysium now.
Yeah.
But what's amazing is that they had that kind of positive mental and emotional shift once they bonded with Rex, once they had that blade and driver affinity, they realized, hey, there's something more to live for now than just going up to Elysium and asking our father to just end everything for us. So yeah, that's I agree with your I agree with your analysis on Rex there.
Yeah, Rex is he's such a compelling character, and again, he missed his heel turn. He could have very easily turned the other polarity when he got to the top of Elysium and saw it barren, saw it bereft of life,
Yeah.
and
You know,
he didn't. He said, "Okay." He looked at it. He said,
mhm,
"Wow, okay, there really is nothing here. Okay,
yeah.
now what do we
You
do?"
know what? Yeah. And what's interesting is like that what if scenario is also played out with Malos. Once you defeat Malos, he's like, "Hey, what if I was your driver? Think about all the adventures we could have gone on,
Oh, that
but
was
it
heartbreaking.
just didn't end up happening." And that makes you think like, dang, like Malos is the way he is. He's searching for his purpose. He's searching for his like goal and his role in life just because he was pigeonholed into this kind of endbringer Aegis destruction role by Amalthus, who
Yes,
he blames the architect for, but he subconsciously knows that it's all Amalthus's fault. And then he realizes, hey, what if I what if Amalthus was not my driver? How would
right.
things be different? Yeah.
Well, and you got to think about it from Amalthus's perspective. What made Amalthus a
Yeah.
pessimist was the fact that, again, he also grappled with that nihilistic question and became a pessimist rather than a nihilist because basically he went searching for God and found out there was none.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
was Amalthus's story, and it embittered
Yeah.
him because that was what had driven him to purpose. And
Mhm.
when he saw that that was not the case, that's what turned him sour. I mean, so
Yeah.
so there's a lot to it. But yeah, I love the characters. Yeah, Pyra and Mithra and their whole story is the Aegis is fantastic.
Mhm.
I love Nia. I'll tell you, I've never seen.
Mia is my favorite character in the entire game.
Oh, I
I
feel.
yeah.
Yeah, has there ever been a character be friend zoned harder than Nia in a game?
Oh my god. Oh, that is like one of the biggest like
God
jokes and
damn.
memes about Xenoblade 2. Rex, I love you, and then Rex is like, Nia, I love you, and all of you guys. It's really funny, but I am one person who looks at that scene and I find it like a very amazing, beautiful scene
It is.
because it just shows Rex's like innocence, you know? I
Yeah,
just
Rex's.
like yeah, he's just
Like
a
many anime protagonists, he's a dumb caveman rockhead motherfucker that just
yeah, and
he just
here's
doesn't get the cues.
yeah, and you know what's an amazing like Easter egg in Xenoblade 2 is I will just leave it at this. I will just say
Right.
this. Um, there are two very awesome Easter eggs in this game. After you get Nia as a blade, you can use her as a blade on Rex. You know that, of course.
Hmm.
But sometimes when you use her in combat, there's after combat dialogue, right? One of the after combat dialogue options, or not options, but like one of the things you hear is Rex talks to Nia. He's like, "Hey Nia, do you want to talk about what happened earlier?" And she's like, "Oh, you mean, oh Rex, we can talk about that some other time or something, right?"
Yeah.
And they acknowledge that moment. And Rex, there's like an indication that Rex wants to talk about it, right? But another thing is, in the end, when Pyra and Mithra split, if you go back to the title screen is a little different. The title screen is just Rex, Pyra, and Mithra looking out into like the horizon, and the person who joins them later on is Nia. So that's some Easter eggs that they've put in the game, and that's all I'll say.
Biggest bromance of the series, is it Zeke and Rex, or would it be Ryan and Shulk?
I think the biggest bromance of the series
Or is there a better
is
than 3?
okay. Here's the thing. There's the Ryan archetype in all of the games. There is Ryan, there is Zeke, and then there is Lance.
Mm-hmm.
I won't tell you much about Lance, but I will say out of those 3 characters, Lance is probably the best written, whereas Zeke is my personal favorite. But in terms of bromance, I think the bromance with Shulk and Ryan is the absolute best. And I think that's the best, but I resonate more with the Rex and Zeke bromance because like I have a friend in my life
actual fucking characters, like that helps.
Yeah. They have their characters, backstories with all that. Yeah. That's one thing I will say about Xenoblade 1. I wish the characters had a little more backstory. I wish they had more like yeah, except for Melia. Melia is perfect in every single way, but besides that,
yeah, Melia's pretty cool. I love how 3.
Yeah.
I can already tell. Again, this isn't spoilers or anything. If you can't put this together after playing Xenoblade 1 and 2, you need your fucking head examined. But I love how they elevated like the 2 best girls, and like
yes, and I won't say
positions
anything
of like
about
fucking
that.
honor in the 3rd game. I don't know what the fuck they are, but that is clearly Nia, and that is clearly Melia.
That is clearly Nia and clearly Melia, but I will leave it at that.
The hair and the cat ears don't lie.
Yeah, I will leave it at that. Just watch the trailers if you want to know anything more about Xenoblade 3.
Okay.
If you don't, then don't even watch the trailers and just go into the game.
I'm just gonna go into the game,
yeah. And I try my best to like not retweet or talk about spoilers without like warning in advance on Twitter, but to be extra careful, just maybe mute the words Xenoblade or Xenoblade 3 as well. But I will say this about the bromances. I resonate the most with Rex and Zeke, because like I have a friend in my life who is kind of like the Zeke to my Rex.
Okay.
So that's why I personally resonate with that a little more. But I think Shulk and Ryan is just very iconic because Shulk is the nerd. Shulk is like the annoying, silly, like Shulk is the nerdiest person in all of Xenoblade, I think. He's such a nerd. And then Ryan is the complete opposite. Ryan is the bimbo. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know what he's doing. He always makes mistakes. But in his idiocy and in his silliness, he's always there for Rex. Always.
Dude,
ever since the very beginning.
Fucking bro.
And I think that's where the bromance is the strongest, because Zeke is almost more like a mentor to Rex, whereas Ryan is like, hey, I'm your best friend. I'll always have your back.
Right, ride or die. Like, ride or die, bestie for sure.
Yeah. And as you'll see with Lance and Noah in the next one, they are like the ride or die, but it's more like we need each other to survive. It's not like a friendly camaraderie. It's more like a, hey, like we need each other kind of thing. So you'll see how that happens later.
Have you seen the Ryan clock?
Of course, I've seen the Ryan clock.
Okay, I just want to make sure you've seen that.
Yeah, have you seen? Have you seen? So my friend showed me this really funny meme about Xenoblade, and it is like I don't know if you've seen High School Musical 2, but one of the first songs in High School Musical 2 is like, "What time is it? It's summertime, right?" because they go on summer vacation, and
Right.
instead of saying what time is it summertime, they go what time is it now? It's Rhine time instead.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, now,
Yeah,
now, I like a good musical. So at the time, I did not watch High School Musical 2 because at the time my little sister was like obsessed with that, and of course,
yeah,
got to be mean to the little sis, and that means shitting on whatever they
yeah,
like, right? And
yeah,
older brothers are just naturally cruel to anything their little sister likes. It just seems
yeah,
that way.
yeah.
So
For me, it's yeah,
I kind of snubbed it because of that. But now that I'm
yeah,
older and realize how fucking stupid that was, and I do like a good
yeah,
musical. How were the High
yeah.
School Musical movies? Are they
Well,
worth going
okay.
back and revisiting? Because I do have Disney Plus right now.
Well, if you are a musical fan, I don't know if they like. Because here's the thing. Here's a little bit of Nishquik lore about me. I
Okay.
used to be heavily involved in theater and musical theater
Oh
back when I
shit.
was in high
Okay.
school. Yeah. So I performed in. Let's see. Have you heard of? Okay, here's some musicals I did. I did Bye Bye Birdie.
Okay.
That is one I did. I was in Ghost the musical, and
Oh,
my
nice.
most yeah, I my biggest like role I did. This is very funny, very embarrassingly funny, but
Okay.
I was in the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. I don't know if you heard of that musical.
Ah.
Yeah, so I was in that. That is a very, very, very funny musical. If you enjoy musical theater, like the most musical theater silliness,
Yeah.
you would, I think Zoo would love the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee.
I will
And
go look
if
that up.
you,
Well, I'll go to
yeah,
sleep
and
tonight.
I don't want to tell you which character I played. I want you to guess which character I played if you
Okay.
go look into it.
I will do
But
that.
here's the thing about High School Musical. I I watched it when I was very young, but it's the opposite dynamic with you and your younger sister. I was the younger sibling, the younger brother, and my older sister was always watching High School Musical. So just to like be there, I would always watch it with her, and I'd be like, "Oh, what's happening here? What's happening there?" So I
Okay.
would always know the songs because of my older sister, but I wasn't as obsessed with it as she was. But looking back at it, it's just like, oh, childhood memories. High School Musical was cool. Like I remember all these songs. I remember
Oh,
this. I
I
remember this
remember the
character and that
songs. Yeah.
character.
Oh
Yeah.
God, do I remember the songs? Because she was
Oh
like,
yeah.
get your head in the game and what else
Yeah. Yeah.
was. Yeah, I remember. I definitely remember the songs, but I never actually sat down and watched it. Although some of those Disney Channel original movies were pretty fucking epically good. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Some
I'm
of them
thinking
are.
back. I'm remembering like fucking Horse Sense and like fucking Luck of the Irish. And there's some
Yeah.
wild shit on
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
That's pretty
I
entertaining.
yeah, Disney Channel was pretty iconic back in the day. I
It
remember like
was.
Zack and
It
Cody and
was.
all that stuff. But I will say when it comes to musical theater, my uh two favorite musicals of all time. One is Jonathan Larson's Rent. I think
Rent is
that is
phenomenal music.
Rent is like I think it is one of my favorite like stories ever told. And like a lot of like my friends outside of theater, when I tell them I like Rent, they're like, "What? You like Rent? Like that's like oh, I would never have thought that you would like Rent." And
That's
I'll
one of the
like
icons.
it
Like,
it is amazing. And like another thing is like musical theater is one thing. I also love rock music. Like I play guitar as a hobby. I
okay,
love a
nice.
bunch of like yeah, like that's one thing I don't talk about much. I talk about it on Twitter a bit, but
Okay,
I feel like a bunch of us in the Discord server would vibe on that as well. But
fuck yeah.
I'm huge on rock music, and Rent really brought that out of me. So I like Rent a lot. And my second favorite musical is Les Miserables, which is like classic Les Mis.
Oh, Les
You
Mis
can't go
is
wrong with that.
gosh, it's a there's another
Yeah,
phenomenal story. You know,
yeah.
you know,
That's a little bit about me and my musical
thrown in
theater and
fucking
musical
prison
taste.
for stealing goddamn bread. Like,
Yeah, Les Mis is a very iconic and very beautifully told story.
well,
I love
and
it.
Javert is like one of the iconic villains, just like a true villain. And
Dude, Javert is the villain, but like by like even throughout like okay, so you know how every character in Les Mis has like their solo like monologue-esque song?
uh-huh.
Javert's monologue is so sad because he's like, I'm doing this because I know it is the right thing to do. I'm doing it because it's
Yeah,
right. And you're like, do I like do I still stay on Valjean's side because like Valjean has turned over a new leaf, he's a new person, he's a better person, but
He
Like
can't do it.
Javert is just doing this because he's like he's a policeman. He's just doing what he knows is right.
Hmm.
And then when he realizes in the end that like I've wasted so much time, like
Oh, an
like
innocent man.
yeah, it's a very 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 beautiful story, just like Xenoblade 2.
Well, and Javert is, yeah, is a very compelling written character just in terms of that because like
Hmm.
if you look at his journey like throughout the years of Les Miserables, I could go on forever about this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so little I'll throw another musical in because I don't want to get sidetracked on this too long.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
also Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, I really enjoy Little Shop of Horrors.
Little
You
Shop of
know,
Horrors
like
is
back in high
fantastic.
school,
That goddamn
we
tennis
always
song
like,
it lives rent free in my
oh
head.
yeah, oh yeah. I always love the "Feed Me Seymour" song.
Amy Seymour, yeah.
Feed me Seymour. But
It's a
I
great shit.
back in high school, before we would like finish off the year, our director would always announce the musical and the like fall show for the next year, right?
Right.
And every year I would hope for it to be Little Shop of Horrors, but it never ended up being
Ah,
that, unfortunately.
yeah, Little Shop of
I
Horrors
was
is
like,
phenomenal.
it is great,
Now you
yeah.
mentioned guitar. I dabble
Mhm.
a little bit in it, but not.
Mhm.
I'm not good at all.
Mhm.
Like I'll tell you a couple I struggle with is "Crazy on You," Barracuda.
Mm.
Very
That
hard
is such
song.
a hard song. How
Very
can
hard
wait,
song.
are you talking about the acoustic part or the electric part?
The acoustic part in particular, that opening acoustic part. Ooh,
That is so difficult. I haven't
fucking
even
brutal.
attempted to learn that.
Fucking brutal. And then
Yeah, that's
Sultan of
yeah.
Swing. Also
Oh, I
extremely.
love playing Sultans of Swing. That's
You can
actually kind of like a
play
warm-up
you
song for
can
me.
play
Yeah.
Sultans of Swing.
I can play
Yeah,
like my own version.
you're much better than I
I can play my own version of Sultans of Swing, which is basically like I can play it, but it's not exactly how Mark Knopfler does it.
am.
But
Okay,
it's
gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a really fun song to play, and it's I think it's one of the best like guitar songs ever. Yeah. You know what's funny is me and my
I
family.
can play Glycerine
Yeah.
on bass. I guess that's something worth
Oh,
bragging
nice.
about a little bit. But
Bass is cool. I tried playing bass once on my friend's bass, and I was like, I can't do this. I want the smaller strings back.
yeah,
Yeah.
and again, I can't read music worth a fuck, man. So
Mhm.
it's all by sound is basically how I
Yeah.
do it. But
Yeah. But
it's
real quick, speaking of
and
Dire
YouTube
Straits, though.
tutorials.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. YouTube tutorials are like
Oh god,
lifesaver.
it's like a shortcut for people who for dumb
Yeah.
fucks that can't read music like me.
Yeah. But speaking of Dire Straits, me and my family have
Love
seen
Dire
Mark
Straits.
Knopfler live. He's come to like there's like a stadium close by where we are, and he came by there and we got to see him.
Oh
Unfortunately, he
my
didn't
god,
play
that's
Sultans though.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah, very awesome performance. But
Um,
yeah,
actually, I'll give you a little bit of musical trivial about me. Do you know Iron Maiden?
oh yeah, oh yeah,
Okay,
oh wait, yeah, I know where this is going, but yes, please continue.
yeah, see,
I want
yeah.
to know more about this.
I actually have a fairly cordial relationship with Steve Harris, their bassist,
Mm,
and one of their
the bassist, yeah.
songwriters. Uh-huh.
I know. I always recognized him from the Trooper. The Troopers is like a iconic bass line.
God, I love that bass line. It's so good. But yeah, so Steve Harris and actually his daughter Lauren Harris actually talk to
Hmm.
occasionally too. They're cool people. But
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah,
That's cool.
they're
You
touring
actually
now.
know
But
him.
when they get back to Nassau, well, I'm a huge fan. I've been to I don't even want to know how many fucking Maiden concerts I've gone to over the years.
Awesome.
Like yeah, Maiden is my recent favorite was a few years back. They were doing the ow, bit my tongue. Seven tour of a
Fun.
seven tour.
Hmm.
That was a phenomenal show. They actually played Seventh Son of a Seventh Son live, and I don't think they've ever done that before or since.
Nice.
And that was really fucking cool to see. But I saw that in St. Louis, Missouri, and that was a phenomenal show. That I will and Megadeth fucking opened for him, by the way.
Oh, nice. Oh, that must have been a pretty epic concert. I wonder what your eardrums were feeling the next day.
Pretty rough, pretty rough. But Pretty rough. We missed some of Megadeth though. Sadly, there was a bad car accident on the way in.
Oh no.
Which I, given how bad that fucking accident was, I don't want to throw my first world problem on there and be like, God damn it,
Oh yeah.
that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
it was a bad accident.
Yeah.
It did delay us getting there. Given the fact that we got there intact, not gonna bitch about it. But
Damn.
I did get to see them play Tornado of Souls live. I got to see them do
Nice.
Peace Sells, Who's Buying. Just so many good songs, and then of course Holy War's The Punishment Do. Which
Nice.
if you wanna tell me you're a guitar god, tell me you can play that fucking song.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Any part of
I
that
I
song.
gotta I gotta
Any
learn
part of
some
that
Kirk
song.
Hammett first. Yeah.
Yeah, my wife
Before
is
I
before you do
graduate to
Dave
Iron Maiden.
Mustaine, you better do some before you do or Dave Murray, you better do some Kirk Hammett first for sure.
Yes, yeah. I think for me, yeah, my guitar idols I would say are yeah, Mark Knopfler for like fingerstyle.
Okay.
John Frusciante is like a big one. I love John Frusciante's style, how he's emulated Hendrix's style and done something himself. And I
So
guess the one who like kind of like inspired me to start playing in the first place was Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin. So
well, you can't go
him
wrong. Can't
and
go
then
wrong with Zeppelin or Hendrix. Those are some
oh yeah,
great
you
fucking
can't.
jobs. Great
Yeah,
fucking
but
jobs.
my one of my ultimate favorite guitarists is George Harrison actually, because George
Okay.
Harrison is not like he's not like he doesn't go like crazy on his solos like Jimmy Page or Jimi
No, it
Hendrix
doesn't
or
have
like
to.
anyone.
Beatles are a very understated band. They're not they're
Yeah,
not they're not very show offy, but they do everything they do so fucking
yeah.
well. Like in terms of writing fucking music, I defy you to find somebody that's better. Maybe Elvis Presley, maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
A fun fact about me is the Beatles are my number one favorite rock band of all time,
Beatles
and
are
it's a very
fabulous.
basic answer. I always say like it's a very basic answer, like oh the
It's
Beatles, but
also an
like
honest answer in terms of sheer just everything. Maybe the Stones,
yeah,
but even then, no. Like
you know it's an honest answer, but I will also say this: I also think it is the correct answer.
yeah.
That's just coming from me as a Beatles super fan, but
Oh
yes,
yeah, for
yeah,
sure. Now, in terms of technical, like, no, I gotta. I love Iron Maiden so fucking well. If we're talking
yeah,
like Dream Theater in terms of like just pure auteurs, put out some
mm-hmm.
crazy shit, but
Oh yeah,
absolutely crazy shit. And I think the only
yeah.
weak point on them is like the vocalist. Every other person is like a mega talent, like a literal prodigy on the fucking on their
I gotta listen to Dream Theater. They always get recommended to me on Spotify. I
Dream
gotta check
Theater's.
them
Yeah,
out.
they're prog rock, so they're
I like prog rock. I like Rush. I like
oh,
Yes. I
Rush.
like
Yeah, Rush
ELP.
is.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Rush live?
No, I've not. I've unfortunately
Oh,
not. A few of my
and now Perch
friends
and now
and their
Perch fucking
parents have seen
retired.
Rush live, but I've not, unfortunately.
Yeah, now
Yeah.
Perch retired. It's a fucking shame, man.
Yeah. Pert unfortunately passed away a few years back, which was very sad to hear.
Oh
And
shit, I
like,
didn't even know that.
yeah, Neil Peart unfortunately passed away. I don't remember exactly when, but it was very sad news to hear that.
Oh
And
damn.
I think so. Let me
God,
see
yeah, I was
exactly
gonna say I
when.
felt that fucking years later. I feel it right. Oh my god.
Yeah, he passed away in January 2020, actually. Yeah,
God,
it
we're losing
says.
so many good fucking drummers. Didn't Tom
Yeah.
Petty pass away too recently? Like a few years
Who?
back? Um the fuck. Motley Crue's drummer.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember his name though. But oh, you want to like something very like profound and like I feel very lucky for this, and my family does as well. Like my dad is a huge Eagles fan, and we got to
Eagles are
see
good
them in
shit.
like 2015 when they came to town, right? The
Uh-huh.
Eagles, right? And then the next year, Glenn Fry actually passed away, one of the founding members of the Eagles. So we were lucky that we got to see them live in concert a year before that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I had a buddy who went to an Eagles concert, and there was they were there with Boston actually, and
Mm.
yeah, that was a hell of a show that I didn't get a chance to go to. But basically there was a power outage. This fucking venue mishandled it so badly.
Oh
There's a
no.
fucking power outage, and they fucking played in the dark.
Oh
They
no.
played anyway. They were so fucking
Was
pissed. They played in the dark.
was there equipment still like going?
They brought out the acoustics. Yeah.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, they
that's
brought out the
good.
acoustics and they played in the dark. But yeah, it was harder to hear a
Oh,
little bit.
okay.
But yeah, he said it was
That's
quite
good
a
that they
show though
still
because
continued though.
they played in the fucking dark. Yeah, they played with no power,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
really and it was really cool. But they were so mad. I guess the Eagles were so fucking mad at that venue.
yeah. I can totally imagine.
Like
Yeah.
but to look up that show, that was a favorite. And then of course the Pledge of Allegiance tour when that showed up in Peoria.
Mm,
Like I think it
yeah,
was Peoria. God, my memory's hazy. That was high school. That was high school. So that was
yeah.
yeah, that was quite a show. That was Slipknot, Mudvayne, Rammstein, American Head Charge, and System of a Down.
Nice.
That was an amazing fucking show. I'll never forget they had a mosh pit going. I was a high school kid at that point, right?
Nice.
And so anyway, everyone's like, "Yeah, jump in the mosh pit." So I jumped down the mosh pit. It was fun for a little while. I was holding my own okay. And then all of a sudden, I see the crowd just part like the fucking parting of the Red Sea with fucking Moses, right? And here comes this big motherfucker.
Yeah.
This fucking guy had to be every bit of fucking 400 pounds, fucking 6'5", and this dude like he's fucking looking for somebody to mosh, and he like fucking turns. I just see him fucking hone in on me, and he's like, yeah, and he like fucking charges me. And I climbed the fuck out of that mosh pit. I scrambled. I climbed the fuck out. I had a couple buddies dragging me up.
You're
And
running for your life,
oh
man.
yeah, and this dude stopped. He's like, "Come on, yeah, come on." I'm like, "No,
No, I'll
no,
pass.
buddy. I know you want to have a good time, but you're 3 times my fucking size, homie. Like, no, I'm just a kid. Like, you go find some other fucking titan to fucking bang with, not
Just
me."
to find someone your own size.
Fuck yeah! I wish I could have given him a good mosh, but nah, he would have flattened my ass. Like, and I'm not a small guy, but I'm not a fucking titan like that fucking monster was. It's like, nah,
Yeah,
this dude was a beast, man. So good
yeah.
time, good fucking times though. But
That's a funny piece of flipping the switch lore.
yeah, a little bit of zoo lore that comes in.
Yeah.
But again, I can talk about music, even though I'm completely ignorant on music. I can talk about music forever.
Oh yeah, music is another like big hobby and passion of mine outside of video games
Well, if you think about
because
it, like I'm suspicious of people who aren't interested in music, even in a base level. Music it's kind of the first language. It's kind of the first universal language we all speak. We speak two universal languages, right? We we we
Mhm.
we share music with one another, and we share food with one another, which I guess will bring us into
Yeah.
our next bit. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
if
yeah.
you can't share music and you can't share food, something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Something really wrong with
Yeah.
you. You can't be around.
Yeah, and
I'm not saying you're
music
a
and
bad
food.
person. I'm just saying I don't want anything to fucking do with you.
Yeah, the thing about music and food is on top of that, there are so many genres, so many cultural styles
Yes.
of music. Like Indian classical music is not the same as Western classical music, and Bollywood music is not the same as like pop music, or like
Not from
K-pop is
that.
not the same as Bollywood.
Yeah, I'm getting an
Uh,
education in K-pop in the Cold Nights Disco.
yeah.
That was one. I that's a whole nother world for me. But tell me about Indian classical music now. That fascinates me. Because of course,
So
of
I
course,
don't.
there's classical music in India, but I'll be damned if I don't think I've ever heard a single song. So tell me a little bit about it.
So I don't know a whole lot myself when it comes to like theory and stuff, but
Okay.
I will say this. Kind of like how we have our like do re mi fa sol, like
Uh huh.
Western music has that.
Yeah. It's
Indian
the music
classical
theory.
music has its own version of it, and it
Oh
is
shit.
very different. The notations are a little different. The rhythm is very different. And you know how the tabla plays? Like you've
Hmm.
definitely heard the tabla if you've heard Beatles songs. Like
Yeah.
Within You, Without You, Tomorrow Never Knows, all those songs
Right.
use the tabla. And um the time signatures and the rhythm of tabla is very different from like a Western drum beat as well. I don't know a lot of this because I never studied tabla, I never studied sitar or
Okay.
Indian classical singing or anything like that. But what's very interesting is me being a fan of the Beatles, going back to the Beatles, I was very interested in like hearing how like my parents would always talk about Indian classical music, like how my mom used to learn sitar, or my dad like listens to like people like Ravi Shankar, or like other people who like do a lot of vocal singing in
Mm-hmm.
Indian classical style. But then I would listen to the Beatles and I was like, hey, why are they using sitars? Why are they using tabla? And then I realized George Harrison himself went out of his way to go to India and learn sitar from Ravi Shankar, who is like the guru. He's like the Mozart of Indian classical music. So I
What's
found that
now
really
now
cool. I
now
was
what's
like,
his name? Spell that for me real quick, so I'm gonna take a look
I'll
at that.
send it to you in the chat.
Oh,
Ravi
okay.
Shankar.
Yeah, send that
Yeah,
to me because I want
he
to check him out.
yeah. He is, like I said, he's kind of like the Mozart of um uh Indian classical music in a way.
Nice. Well,
And
thanks, man. Yeah,
he
I'll definitely check that out.
yeah, cuz he's like it's a like name I've heard throughout most of my life, like, oh, we're putting on Ravi Shankar music, or Ravi Shankar this, that, whatever, right? And then when I realized that he's the one who taught George Harrison how to play sitar, I was like, whoa, that's insane.
Why am I not
That's so
surprised?
cool.
Why am I not fucking surprised to
Yeah.
hear that one of the most compelling and legendary bands in the world had a band member who traveled to India to learn the music? Why does that not surprise me? And let me expand on what I mean by that. So, one of the things that I constantly harp on in game design, okay, to bring this back to gaming, because this is all connected. It's all cybernetic, right?
Mhm.
But one of
Yeah.
the things that I talk about on in terms of what in terms of this now, I'm starting to feel the alcohol. So let me gather my
Yeah.
thoughts.
I'm sipping on a St. Arnold's lawnmower as well.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah, I'm doing.
You heard of St. Arnold's Brewery?
I've heard of St. Arnold's Brewery. I actually do. I'm a craft beer aficionado.
Yeah.
I actually get craft beer and have it come in. I've had a couple of their brews.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a local beer. It's a local brewery here in Houston, Texas,
Hmm.
and they have literally my favorite beers ever. Very, very fantastic.
I
Very
haven't had the
fantastic.
lawnmower yet, but yeah, that sounds
I That's what I'm having right now. Yeah, it's a really light, crisp, good beer. Yeah, they have everything from like your average lawnmower beer to like pilsners, IPAs,
well, the IPA
everything.
the IPA is what I've had. Yeah,
Oh yeah, they have something called the St. Arnold's Art Car
hmm
IPA. It's
Yep.
very, very
There,
heavy, but
yep.
it's very good.
It's very good. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one I had. I remember that. Actually, my
Yeah, the Art
it
Car.
reminds me of the IPA. My favorite brewery, and they just went out of fucking business. God damn it! But it was Rolling
Mhm.
Meadows Brewery here. Oh my god, it's so good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they had because I like lagers, I like IPAs, and I like and yeah, I'm okay with the pilsner as well. And we have a
Yeah.
craft beer and oyster festival here every year, and you can
Oh
get some
wow.
you can get some bizarre fucking beers. There's one beer I tried that was like a hibiscus and rosewater beer.
Mm.
And it was
Sounds
fucking
good.
good. It was like clear
Yeah.
nectar. It was fucking good.
You know, there's this like small, very low key brewery in the area. It's called, like, funnily enough, it's called Under the Radar. And your hibiscus beer reminded me of something similar I had, which was like a jasmine infused beer, which was no, it wasn't jasmine, it was lemongrass. It was even better. And I was like, wow,
We got a
amazing.
gang. We got a gang up on my buddy Z. Um,
Yeah.
I'll just call him Z because again I value anonymity. We'll have to gang up on him because he has a common saying that what do you say? There's no excuse to ruin perfectly good beer is how he describes craft beer.
Yeah.
That's bullshit. That's complete bullshit. But he's a
Mm-hmm.
he's a he's a he's a domestic swill lover. So I don't
Yeah.
know why I'm surprised. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah. Anyway, so that's what I was saying. So to bring this all around in terms of music, I've always been one that harps on if the people who make the best art are the most interesting people. Okay, and what
Mhm.
let me define that. Let me define my terms on that. So you got a guy like Richard Garriott, right? Lord British, who made Ultima. His parents were astronauts. He's always had an interest in whether it's deep sea exploration, whether it's climbing Mount Everest. The guy goes out and he has fucking adventures. And the guy goes out and he travels and he experiences other cultures and he eats their food.
Yeah.
Or like an Anthony Bourdain, if you remember, if you look
Anthony Bourdain is a perfect example. Yeah.
fucking interesting cat.
Very yeah,
Like
very interesting, open-minded, empathetic kind of guy.
I'm not saying that everybody has to try to be the Dos Equis guy, but
Yeah.
get a little Dos Equis in your life, guys. Like,
Yeah.
don't just
Dos
sit in
Equis
your.
guy isn't honestly that interesting, but yeah.
Well, I just use that
Oh,
because that's the kind of the like all the shit he gets up to in the commercials. Like, not necessarily
yeah.
saying you have to be like that, but every once in a while, it's good for you. Get out of the house, hop on a train to nowhere, take a
Mhm.
road trip to a local burger joint in a small town that you've heard about. Meet the people,
Or
eat the food,
yeah.
order the
Yeah, like,
beer.
the simplest thing is just try a new restaurant in your area,
One
an
hundred
entirely
percent.
different cuisine you've never tried before in your life,
One
and
hundred
just give it a
percent.
shot.
We got a place that just opened up here. That I actually just I didn't feel like cooking tonight, so it's called Traveler's Kitchen. Traveler's
Oh,
Kitchen is a combination of Mexican and African cuisine, specifically
wow.
North African, and
Wow.
they make a chicken yassa, and I'm like, I make chicken yassa. So I would like to test their chicken yassa, and it was pretty fucking good for a place that
Nice.
specializes in both Mexican cuisine and African cuisine. That's not a
How
combo
do
that
you
you hear too often.
how do you spell that chicken?
Chicken yassa, so Yassa. So check this shit out. That'll get us into food. So chicken
Chicken
yassa is
yassa. Okay.
it's a one pot dish. And
Okay.
it's made with lemon juice and caramelized onions, essentially. It's kind of the base.
Oh,
And
wow.
mustard. And
That already
mustard.
sounds amazing.
So mustard, yeah, you can do it with mustard, caramelized onion, lemon juice. Okay,
Okay.
that's going to be your base sauce. Now you want to add black pepper, you want to add white pepper. You want to add, if you have it, you want to add just a touch of sumac because sumac will give that a little bit of a more bitter flavor or more citrusy flavor as well.
Mm,
Kind of lends well with the
okay.
lemon juice. Um, you want to add, I'll tell you what I add to mine. It's not traditional, but mirin is really good
Okay.
because the
Okay.
mirin adds a little bit of depth of
That's like
flavor to it.
rice wine, right?
Yeah, mirin is it's like a sweeter rice wine. Yeah,
Okay.
but I throw that in there. And what you want to do is basically you take chicken leg quarters is what I always use because it's the best fucking part of the chicken, objectively. I take my chicken leg quarters and what I do is I marinate them 24 hours in
Okay.
that brine, and then I take them out. I reserve that sauce and the onions. I cook the shit out of that. I caramelize it down to where it's this wonderful spiced lemony caramelized oniony goodness, and then I brown the chicken in a separate pan, and then I combine it all into one pot, and then I transfer that pan now that it's a one pot meal, transfer that along with the rice into the oven, and it simmers in that everything simmers together in that caramelized onion sauce.
Oh, wow.
It is fabulous. Also add some carrots and bell peppers if you want in there too, just to add some additional flavors and color. But yeah, chicken yassa is delicious.
Anything with caramelized onions completes it.
Yeah, caramelized onions is like an S tier
Yeah.
thing.
I
Every
gotta
cook,
try that out. I
e-
gotta
e-
give that a shot.
every fucking cook needs to know how to do caramelized onions. It's like
Yeah.
one of
When
the
I first saw the picture, I was like, "Is this a curry or is this a
no.
stew?" But then you're like, "Oh, I marinated," and then it just like I'm assuming like once you marinate it and once you like cook it, it just releases all the juices,
Right, yeah,
and it just
because
makes it like a very soupy kind of
yeah,
curry.
you want to put your chicken in there for about 24 hours, and you're gonna chop up your caramelized onions, and they can be chopped large. They don't have to be chopped small or anything. Just general
Yeah.
small. You're gonna combine that lemon juice, all gonna sit. It's gonna sit in the chicken, right? And then
Yeah.
take your chicken out. You brown your chicken. That's the first thing you do. You set your chicken aside. Then you throw your onions and your carrots and shit in there, and you're just gonna let it sit. And you're just gonna caramelize the shit out of that. You're gonna cook it down to a caramelize. Then you put the chicken back in, and then finally, last but not least, either throw your rice in a rice cooker if you want to be a lazy shit bag like I am some nights, or if you want to really take it to the promised land. You want to cook your rice. You want to do your general parboil
Yeah.
your rice where you boil it and get it. But
Mm,
then right before it's done, you want to throw that into the caramelized onion and let it finish cooking in that caramelized onion sauce with the chicken.
nice.
And
Nice.
it's fabulous.
You know what this reminds me of?
Oh,
I might have shown you a picture of this, but I have this recipe which my mom taught me. It's called lamb do piazza.
okay.
Do piazza means like it's like two styles of onion. Grilled onion and fried onion. Fried onion is basically caramelized onions. I don't know why they call it fried onion, but
Yeah.
it's basically caramelized onions. Basically, you like make like an onion paste. You fry onions like very very hot in like really hot oil
Hmm.
till they're very like grilled and fried and caramelized, and then you make this like curry with that onion paste, and then you sprinkle like the fried onions on top, and it's like a very thick onion based, yet still like sweet with the onion taste, but still very spicy with all the spices you put into it, kind of gravy
Oh,
for
hello,
lamb.
nurse. That sounds terrific, man.
Yeah.
That sounds absolutely terrific. But yeah, just that's the kind of thing. If you want to make interesting art, eat good food, eat different food, travel, just do the things because that's the thing. Like a lot of people don't realize, like Herman Melville got on a fucking whaling boat 3 times back in his day. That was fucking insane, Dish. That was nuts.
Yeah.
Most people didn't get on a whaling vessel 1 time because it was fucking dangerous as hell. He went on a whaling vessel 3 times to write Moby Dick. um art, like Shakespeare famously said that art is is holding up a mirror to nature. He's like, I don't actually write anything, I just hold up a mirror to nature. And so the art is going to reflect what you see. And if all you see is to sit in a house and watch anime and play video games all day, like that might be great for people that aren't engaging in art. So I'm not a video game developer. Fine for me if I want to do that. I don't, but it would be fine for me. But if you're making the video games, that's going to impact your art. Nobody wants to read your fucking brain
Yeah.
farts. Nobody wants to watch your fucking brain farts. So if you can travel and experience other cultures and worlds, and if you can't, at the very least, play interesting games, read interesting books, and watch interesting movies. But do
Yeah.
something to enhance your worldview, to give something to offer to people. If you're going to sell a video game, pack that video game with some interesting fucking content. And that's the one thing, like whether it's Xenoblade or whether it's Zelda's mythological storytelling, the games that I'm drawn to typically are made by pretty interesting people.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
it
Most
all goes
definitely.
back. Yeah, there's a Morrowind quote. There's a character, one of my favorite
Yeah.
characters in Morrowind, Deviah Fear, and it's so funny. Like if you walk up to this guy, like early in the game, he's a like a 4,000-year-old Telvanni wizard, right? And
Mhm.
he does not have time for your bullshit. So if you're a low level character and you show up there, or if you're a character that hasn't done a lot in the world, like he's gonna have a low disposition when you talk to him. And he actually
Oh
says,
yeah.
and what he says is when you talk to him, he'll say, "Not interesting. Sorry, but you are not interesting, and I don't have time to waste on boring people."
This
Not
it
your
sounds like Bethesda has something to say about the people playing the games.
it kind of does before they became that exact thing themselves, because Morrowind was the last interesting fucking game they made, I will argue.
Ah, yeah.
But yeah, but literally, I love it. He's like, not your fault, perhaps, but you are not interesting. Look, you are not interesting, and I
Yeah.
don't have time to waste on boring people. Now, when you come
Yeah.
back after you've done some things in the world, Deviathir's happy to talk to you, and he wants to hear all about it. And
That's
so
cool.
that's kind of how I am in terms of my media taste. Like
Yeah.
I can
And
if all
yeah.
you do is watch anime all day, I can sniff you out in a second. Um,
Yeah.
I
And what's cool is like even like yeah, like developers like especially Zelda team, we can talk about them specifically with Breath of the Wild. We'll say Breath of the Wild. They traveled the world and went to specific landmarks to get inspiration for a lot of the
yes,
locations in Breath of the Wild's Hyrule. And I was like, whoa, I didn't know they did that much. And then they first they looked into Tokyo. They looked into like Kyoto, Tokyo, Japan.
uh huh.
They're like, how can we model Hyrule after what we already have, like outside our office? And then they broadened it to places outside of Japan, which can like bring in more inspiration to
Mhm.
like what they want
Well,
to
just look at the Sheikah
create.
technology. Like if you look at the Sheikah tech, it's all based
Yeah,
on pre-Shinto civilization.
yeah. And
Um,
now the Zonai stuff is based
Peruvian.
off of like Mayan
Yep,
stuff,
Mayan and
Mayan
Peruvian.
technology. Yeah,
Yeah, Peruvian
yeah,
priestess. It's so
yeah.
fucking cool. Like, then that's the thing. Like that. Not only does that, and that's the thing you'll always see in my reviews. Not only like when I played Persona 5, for example, one of the things that I did is I immediately looked at the inspiration, and I found Carl Jung. Not already read Jung,
Oh
but
yeah,
I took a fucking deep dive. I dived off. Took a fucking swan dive off that diving board into
yeah.
Carl Jung while I played
Um,
that game, and it's part of
Speaking
why
of
it took so
Carl
damn
Jung,
long
yeah,
for me to
yeah.
write that damn review, which is almost done.
Oh yeah. So speaking of Carl Jung, have you played Xenogears?
I in just a little bit, but not much.
Okay.
That was on PlayStation 3.
That
Um,
was yeah. You can play it on PS3, but it was originally on PS1.
right.
It was basically what Final Fantasy VII was supposed to be, but Xenogears is the original embodiment of Carl Jung's like not original embodiment, but like it is one very good example of like how Carl Jung's like philosophy and psychology is incorporated into video game storytelling. And I don't want to say too much about Xenogears, but I will say this because we were talking about Xenoblade before.
Right.
Xenogears is basically when you beat Xenogears, it ends by saying end of chapter 5 of 6. So what you experienced in Xenogears was chapter 5 of a 6-part story. And later on, Square Enix and Takashi and whatnot, they released a book called Xenogears Perfect Works.
Okay.
Inside it, you can see like Takahashi's like whole timeline is inspiration and like idea of what he wanted Xenogears to be like.
That's an
And
interesting
you
dude.
see
Yeah.
what part yeah, you see what part 1, 2, 3, and 4 were within the like lore of Xenogears. And then you realize part 5 is Xenogears in the present. And then part 6 is basically what happens after Xenogears and basically without saying too much about Xenogears, it is basically what happens in a world without God, right?
Oh, so yeah.
And
Because so again, he was definitely looking at. I promise he read Nietzsche. He read Jung. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah, he did all that. And basically, no one was able to figure out what part 6 of Xenogears is because Xenogears like a sequel never came out and like he wasn't able to continue that. But Takahashi was always trying to replicate that perfect work story of a 6-part story trying to be told in a different format. He tried to do that for Xenosaga. It didn't really work out. He only got to 3 games.
Okay.
And here's what he did with Xenoblade. Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3. There are 3 games, but there is also 3 sub-stories. Xenoblade 1 has an epilogue, Xenoblade 2 has a prequel, Xenoblade 3 has a prequel as well. But the main numbered games, Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3, are in each of their own ways a different retelling of Xenogears Chapter 5, or sorry, Perfect Works Chapter 5
Okay.
until you get to Xenoblade 3. And Xenoblade 3 is the first kind of representation and first kind of look into what a Perfect Works Part 6 would be. A world after, like, a world with no gods, a world in Xenoblade, a world without the conduit. That is the big thing. What happens in a world without the conduit? What are we supposed to do when that is gone? And what's cool with the prequel stories and the sequel stories is they tie in and tell some of the take some of the inspiration from Xenogears parts 1 through 4 to tell their own story leading into the quote unquote part 5, which is the numbered entries of Xenoblade 1, 2, 3. And that is a very complicated and convoluted explanation of what Takahashi's master plan is. But once you complete Xenoblade 3, once you complete all the additional stories and the DLCs, it just makes sense, and you realize you just feel really happy for him because when Future Redeemed concluded this April, I ended that game by thinking, "Wow, finally Takahashi was not screwed over by a mega company like Square Enix or Bandai
It
Namco.
was
He was
Nintendo.
finally able to tell his story, maybe not with the original characters he wanted, but he was able to finally tell his story, his amazing, profound, beautiful, amazing story, and conclude it. That is the big thing. He was able to cap off his story, and he did it. So I'm just very happy that he got to do that with Xenoblade. I'm just glad Nintendo gave him a chance to do it.
Yeah, I also heard that
Yeah.
his wife had some of the writing chops in some of these stories too, which is really
Yes.
that's
So her name is Kaori Tanaka,
uh-huh.
but her like pen name is Soraya Saga. So she co-wrote Xenogears with him,
Yeah.
and yeah, and I don't know how involved she was with Xenosaga, but she wasn't as involved with Xenoblade. I think she had a bit of inspiration with some of the character designs,
Oh,
but other than that, she
they're
was like,
married.
yeah.
I promise there was impact.
Oh yeah, yeah. She was involved, but in terms of like her involvement directly with Monolith Soft, I don't think
Not
she was
quite.
as
Right.
involved. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. But like she has been credited as a character designer for many like notable characters in the Xenoblade series. But
Why am
yeah,
I not
she is definitely
why am
involved.
I not surprised that a guy who derived inspiration from Prometheus Unbound, which was Percy Shelley, would also be married to another author, a la Mary Shelley, and why does that not why does
Ah,
that parallel not
Frankenstein.
why does that parallel not show? Yeah, honestly, Percy Shelley outwrote her husband. If I'm being honest, and
Yeah.
that's not saying. I mean, that's no shade to Percy Shelley. He wrote fucking Prometheus Unbound. He wrote
Hmm.
he wrote he wrote some amazing shit.
Yeah.
But we all remember Frankenstein. If we're being honest,
Yeah.
that's the one we
Yeah. I
remember.
remember Frankenstein as well.
But I don't know. Like that's an interesting thing. Like the perfect works and the way that goes and like where what would nobody knows what part six. I would argue that maybe James Fraser would be instructive here in terms of predicting what six would maybe be. The
Okay.
Golden Bough. Are you familiar with Fraser's work in archaeology and anthropology?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Wait, his name sounds familiar though. Let me look
James
at him.
Fraser wrote The Golden Bough. Yeah, look that up and we'll kind of talk a little bit about what his theory is. Now, a lot of his shit, keep in mind, like any early anthropologist, it comes from a very Eurocentric perspective, right? So a lot of his shit has since been jettisoned.
Oh, Fraser with a Z. Okay, there. I
Yeah,
found him.
I do, however, think that there is some merit, especially in storytelling, to his civilizational cycle. And it goes kind of as thus. So when we look at primitive civilizations and primitive societies, right? Um, they put themselves on an equal footing with demons, gods, spirits, nature, things of that nature, right? So in Fraser's cycle, we all start as primitives, and primitives don't have an understanding or a disparity between ourselves and gods and demons and spirits of nature, forces of nature, etc. So, for example, this is how you have primitive society shooting arrows dipped in fire at the sky in order to compel the sun to rise, right?
Hmm.
This is where you get rain dances from, for example, because we feel like we have the power. We are on equal footing with these more elemental forces of nature, whether you call them gods, demons, whatever you call them. We're on the same footing as these folks, right? So we can compel them with our equal power. So
Hmm.
that's the primitive civilization. But eventually, what happens is eventually the rain dance doesn't work. Eventually, there's a
Yeah.
solar eclipse, even though you've done your daily ritual of shooting the fire arrows in the air to scare whatever spirit into raising the sun. Eventually,
Yeah.
something doesn't your compulsion doesn't work. And once that
Hmm.
happens, then the primitive societies become scared and they start to question now all of a sudden where at least they were on equal footing with the natural forces, now the natural forces seem to be more powerful than they, and this fills them with fear. Then
Oh
comes,
man.
this is where gods come into play. Gods and
Oh,
demons and
bro.
these forces of nature, right? So what happens next is that priests show up and say, I can tell you, I can interpret these powers that we can't comprehend all of a sudden, that we can't control. I know how to appease them. I know how and this is where you get religion from. And so that's kind of the second of the civilizational cycle is we invent religion. Over time, this leads to a yearning to understand these forces beyond our power and beyond our kin. And so this leads to people trying to understand God, trying to understand demons, and trying to understand these natural forces. And that gives birth to science, which takes us into the
Yeah.
modern civilizational, like your modern civilizationals. So I definitely think there's some really compelling and interesting things there, and it kind of shows us. So you ask, where would we go in a world bereft of gods? Where would we go in a world bereft of a conduit? And the answer might be in that third phase of Fraser's civilizational framework.
Mm. I I definitely agree with you, and I'm very, very, very excited for you to give Xenoblade 3 a shot because
That's
there
okay. Oh God, is there
yeah,
fucking Fraser in
it
there?
I think I will say this. I
I'm
think
so good.
you
I'm so good at this.
yeah, I think you are, and I think you yourself will be able to go into Xenoblade 3 with a better mindset than a lot of us Xenoblade fans who went into Xenoblade 3. Because, oh god,
Oh my God, did I
yeah,
just do it again? Don't tell me.
no, you didn't like predict anything
Okay,
like
okay, good.
monumentally like,
Because that shit
but I
gets
would
old,
just say,
man.
I would just say you're kind of you have the right mindset. That's all I'll say. You have the right mindset of like how you should feel about Takahashi's storytelling. That's all I'll say.
Well, yeah, and again, I see it because he's an auteur. Like again, I'll give you
Yeah.
another one that always interests the fuck out of me, and that's Hideo Kojima. Um,
Oh yeah, I was actually watching a Kojima related video
an
recently
interesting fucking
before we
guy.
got on the call.
And again,
Mm,
this is somebody who's really not experienced hardly any Metal Gear games. And but I can tell you, I got a buddy who loves Metal Gear and who encourages me. The one that he keeps encouraging me to play is Peace Walker
mm,
in particular.
yeah,
And but what's interesting about Hideo Kojima is you can always see what he's interested in based on the games he's making. You can see what he's reading. So,
yeah.
for example, when he made Metal Gear Solid 5, there was an obsession with language, right?
Yes,
And
yeah.
and so this leads to the book he read, which is Nicholas Ostler's Empires of the Word, which looks at language as almost an imperialist conquering force, which is really, really interesting if you think about it. So a little bit about Nicholas Ostler. As an aside, since we're talking Kojima now, Nicholas Ostler was he grew up, he was Czech, right? He grew up in the Czech Republic. And
Yeah.
so tell me if this character sounds familiar to you at all. So he grew up in the Czech Republic where there was the invasions by the Nazis, right? They showed up and they invaded and they occupied the Czech Republic. And he his village spoke a certain dialectic of the Czech language. Well, he was made to speak German. They would not allow him to speak his native language. They made him speak German, right? Now, when the Germans were thrown from the Czech Republic, it was then occupied by the Soviets, who once again insisted now that they all speak Russian. And over the process of these decades of occupation and being conquered, he witnessed not only the death of a language, but thoughts, attitudes, how he viewed right and wrong. These are all things. A language isn't just words, man. A language is an entire framework for thinking. It's why people who are bilingual or multilingual oftentimes appear to be smarter than people who only speak a single language. And part of that reasoning is because they're actually able to think in different entire modes of thought. It's not just the words, man. And
Hmm.
so he witnessed the destruction of the language that he spoke And over time, that also was the destruction of his culture through these two
Mm-hmm.
occupations. And Nicholas Ostler argues that essentially what happened is that what happened to the language was a more brutal conquering than anything that was done physically to his people.
Mm-hmm.
It obliterated their entire culture in obliterating the language, and that particular dialect of Czech is gone
Yeah.
now. It's a sad, sad story, and if it
Yeah.
sounds familiar, it's also Skullface's story.
Okay.
It's the villain. It's the villain's story in Metal Gear Solid 5.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. But you know, it's a coincidence because my friend, like, who was visiting me this past weekend was talking to me about, I think the character's name is Quiet
Hmm.
from MGS5.
Who doesn't speak at
I
all.
Yeah, she's not allowed to speak,
Hmm.
and
It's all
if she
about language.
speaks in yeah, she could speak English, but she doesn't want to speak in English because that's like a retaliation against like what she would want to speak, and like
Yes.
she just doesn't want to speak English, and if she speaks her native language, she could be killed in
Uh-huh.
some way.
Well, and that all
Yes.
ties into the story. And again, it's it's an interesting. And again, the game is far better in concept and execution. Fascinating concept, and that's one thing. That's what I'm trying to say to bring this all back to Kojima. It is a the guy is fascinating in terms of the interest that he puts into his games. For example,
Mhm.
and this is what my buddy tells me. If you want to know about Costa Rica, revolutionary Costa Rica, and you want to learn about the years of the 70s with the with that movement, the Sandinistas and revolutionary Costa Rica. By the time you finish Peace Walker and you read all the codex entries, you will know everything there is to know in common parlance about revolutionary Costa Rica, because he is
Interesting.
exhausting in his research and he's genuinely interested in it, and he puts that interest into his art. And
Interesting. Yeah.
and that's
Yeah. Have
why
you
no matter what he
do you know
does,
anything?
I would like to play his stuff, but I don't get to
Have you
because they won't put it on the fucking Switch with more than half a gigabyte on the goddamn card.
Yeah. Have you heard of Metal Gear Solid 2 and what that game does? I don't want to say too much about it, but like
I mean, I'll probably never play it at this point. So I mean, I don't
yeah,
know whether to. I mean, if you don't want to spoil it, I get it. But when am I gonna? Well,
I think
Rush
I
says
think you
I
should
need
look.
to. Yeah.
I can't really I can say what happens in it, but I don't really want to because you could like even if you don't play it, I want you to look into it yourself
Okay.
because
Okay.
like yeah, I just can't
The
like
guy's an interesting
explain it as
storyteller.
good as yeah. Metal Gear Solid 2, I'll just say this, it basically predicted the future. That's all I'll say.
He does that a lot, by the way.
Yeah,
He does that.
he straight up predicted the future with Metal Gear Solid 2.
He does that a lot. Metal Gear Solid 4, I would argue, he also predicted the future, but that's a whole nother talk, and that's that very disturbing. Very, very disturbing.
Mhm.
Like the with battlefield control and that whole that's some fucked up shit, man. And
Yeah.
a lot of that's here, baby. But yeah, that's the other thing about Kojima is he's quite relevant. Um, I'll give him that for some of his bad shit. And again, I'm not saying the stories are good stories because there's some bad shit stuff that happens in those stories. It makes no goddamn fucking sense. But in terms of
Oh
the
yeah.
content in his stories, it's always interesting. The concepts on a conceptual level, the guy's an interesting fellow. I think it's why I mourn the loss of the PT and that Silent Hill concept so bad. God damn Konami for that, because you're
Yeah.
talking about pairing Hideo Kojima, who conceptually is a genius, and pairing him with an actual writer who has some actual fucking writing chops and can rein his ass in.
Mhm.
I would have been very interested to see a Del Toro Kojima collaboration. I
Yeah.
think that would have been incredible. And fuck Konami from the bottom of my heart for not allowing that to move forward.
Yeah, I was like I said, coincidentally, I was looking into exactly like the whole Konami Kojima situation recently, and it's it it all boils down to Konami really wanting to double down into mobile games, and they just stopped caring about console games, and they just threw Kojima under the bus,
Well, there's
which is
that's the
there's
that's
a
one
lot more
side.
to the story though. There's a lot more to the
Yeah.
story
Oh, there
than
is, and
that. Yeah.
I can, as a business person, I can there's more to
Yeah,
that story
yeah.
because there's
Kojima himself was also not very good at handling budgets with the projects he was
yes,
given. That's
yes.
another thing that like was on him, I guess you could
Metal
say.
Gear Solid 4 at the time was the most expensive entertainment piece ever made, I believe, actually.
Yeah,
Um,
very specifically made for the PlayStation 3.
yes, and it did not make its money back.
Yeah. Oh, really? It didn't even
Cor-
make a profit?
Not at $500 million for a video game in
How
fucking
how much how many
2000s.
copies did it sell on PS3?
It sold a lot, but again, your budget's 500 million in 2000
Yeah,
in the early 2000
that's a
odds.
lot for a video game.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Back
Yeah.
then, holy shit.
Yeah.
Let's do a let's see. Rush bounced, so I don't have my fact checker. So let me do it myself here. So bear with me, chat. MGS for sales. How many copies? Yeah, 6 million copies. Yeah, get the fuck out of here. You didn't make your money back.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
And that's also on PS3, which did
Not
install
not
bases.
Sony's
Yeah.
finest moment.
Yeah.
Although it got a purchase from me. It had fucking Demon and Dark Souls, so it got my money.
Yeah.
Fucking
I
demons.
mean, it's nothing compared to PS2 and even PS4 did.
Yeah, no, the DVD
Significantly
player.
better.
Did you see Caesar's video on the DVD player?
I have not yet. I
I
should check that out.
I need to get the DVD player back.
Yeah.
I need to get the DVD player. I want, because I've only played a few games for there was Devil Survivor, not Devil Survivor,
Oh,
no, it was
Digital Devil Saga.
no, it was Raido Kuzunoha versus King Abaddon.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
My friend got that for me, and that I played that. That was amazing on PS2.
Yeah.
But I can't think of the name of the series, but it was Raido Kuzunoha games.
Yeah, it Shin Megami Tensei.
It is SMT, yeah. I've always
Yeah.
been an SMT guy, even before I was a Persona guy. So I was actually, because I my first experience was
It's either Devil Survivor or Digital Devil Saga. I think it's Devil Survivor, right?
well, now it's gonna drive me nuts, so I'm gonna fact check myself.
Let me look it up. SMT Ride. Yeah, it's Devil Summoner. It's Devil Summoner. Devil Summoner.
That's it.
Not Devil Survivor. Sorry, it's Devil Summoner Raidu Kuzunoha. Yeah, versus the Soulless Army. That's what it is.
So
yeah.
I had I was versus King Abaddon was the one I played.
Okay, yeah.
And my original
Devil Summoner.
Yeah, and I go back with Shin Megami Tensei all the way to Shin Megami Tensei 2. Actually, was the first SMT game I played, and that was on the Super Nintendo. It was a reproduction cartridge. So, and then of course there's Nocturne, which is one of the best fucking games ever made. And you're playing.
I need to play Nocturne. Oh my god,
yes,
I really need to play
Yes,
Nocturne.
you do. But
I need to play Nocturne. I need to play 4 because I was playing 5, and 5 is very good. Like the gameplay and the combat of 5 is fantastic. The story is just not hitting me.
What did you think of? What did you think of 5?
SMT5, like I was just saying, like it's really good. The combat is great. The exploration is great. The gameplay is great. The customization is great. All of that is amazing. The only big downside for me is the story. The story is just not making me want to push through the game. And everyone says the story is significantly better in 3 in Nocturne, but it is probably the best in SMT4. And SMT4 has a lot of similar. Yeah, as 4 was on 3DS.
Yes,
so I have access to that. I'll just say I have access to SMT4 on the 3DS. So I want to play that as well. 4 and 4 Apocalypse. I want to play those.
Nocturne is life changing. I don't say that like literally. Nocturne is life changing. But again,
I want to give that a shot as well.
But we can't talk about it. but yeah, that game, and I love how that game handles like so. Typically, and almost all SMTs fall into this. It's everything from you've got everything. It's order and chaos, and actually, what you
Yeah.
have in SMT3 is you don't have order, chaos, neutral, good, evil, that kind of shit. You have what you literally have is you have a choice from several different varieties of order, and they all fucking suck.
Yeah.
Kind of like real life.
Yeah.
So that's what you
Yeah.
have in
Makes
Nocturne.
sense.
And that game was a philosophical awakening for me, actually. So
That's cool.
interested to see
I
what you
really
think
want
of
to give that a
Nocturne.
shot. Yeah.
Very very
I'll play
interested
that
to see.
eventually.
But Shin Megami Tensei 5, I don't think the story's bad. I don't think the story's as bad as
Okay.
people say it is. I think a lot of
Yeah,
people
it's not bad. It's just a little more surface level.
yeah, and
You know?
I think
Yeah.
a lot of people it handles kind of the same elements actually of Xenoblade 2 much less well, I think. Much more
Mm,
ham-fisted in terms of like, okay, what do we do in a world bereft of God? You know, that's I think that Xenoblade 2 handles it much better. And I think that there's some wow moments. There are some genuine wow moments in SMT5, but they're few and far between.
yeah.
I'll give you an example of two that are early on, so not huge spoilers. Actually, they're in the same
Oh yeah.
chapter. The moment where you're sliding down after going through the absolute hellscape that is Gozu Tano.
Yeah.
And after you slide down and you end up in the fairy village and that fucking music hits from the fairy village.
Oh, the fairy village is nice. Yeah, the fairy
Dude,
village is pretty awesome. Yeah.
that is a moment I will remember in gaming forever. Like when that
Yeah.
fucking music hits that fairy village, when those bells hit and you land in the fairy village, that's a moment, bro. That is
Yeah.
a tangible moment you can feel in your bones.
Yeah.
And then also to a much lesser extent than that, like when after you beat Lamu for the first time.
Oh, Lamu. Oh,
And that
that
whole
was
thing, that's a
good.
bat, and that's the thing. Those boss battles, and I have critiques of the boss battles, but that moment afterwards, when you get up and then you walk over and you give her a hug and then you stab her through, like damn,
Yeah.
that hits, man. That fucking hits.
Yeah.
Like you know
Yeah.
what's gonna happen, but it hits pretty heavy. That was a
Yeah.
pretty heavy moment. It's like okay, okay, this is not Persona for sure. Like okay.
Yeah.
Like we're not
Yeah.
we're not
Yeah.
at
It's definitely not
the
Persona. Yeah.
that's your moment if you haven't already realized it. That's your moment. But the boss battles in that game too, they're too fucking long. They go on too fucking long.
Yeah. I mean,
Every
that's just the
boss
SMT
battle.
thing I've heard. Yeah.
Not so much in Nocturne, no.
Oh, okay.
But in SMT5, you're every boss battle comes down to this war of attrition that you're always on the losing side of. You just don't have enough mana and you don't have enough resources in order to keep your mana
Yeah.
high, and the boss's health bar is too fucking high. That is
Yeah.
always my problem with the SMT games.
Yeah. If you don't have the right elemental affinity in your party, then you're kind of screwed, basically.
Right, but they teach you that press turn. They always teach you that fairly early in a boss battle. So for SMT5, it's your first battle with what's her face, Snake Lady.
Nua.
Nua,
But even before that is Hydra. Hydra
Hydra.
is the first.
Yes.
Yeah, Hydra is the first boss. Then Nua is later on.
Well, maybe I didn't have. I mean, there's bosses and there's gut checks. Maybe it's just that I've experienced with the press turn, so I didn't get gut checked by Hydra. But maybe Hydra's supposed to be the gut check. For in SMT3, it's Matador.
Yeah, yeah.
Matador
Yeah,
will
Matador,
literally
Matador in 3, and then in
Matador will
4 it is the
body you.
Minotaur. Yeah, Matador I've heard is very difficult. It's like
Yeah,
the first like big tough fight.
yeah.
And then in
If
4
you
I've
don't
heard is
learn
the Minotaur.
if you don't learn buffs and debuffs, you're not continuing in the game. You're not continuing.
Yeah,
You're done.
yeah,
You're done at the Matador unless you know how to do buffs and debuffs. They're
yeah,
very important in those games. Like
yeah,
because you can't hit the motherfucker. You literally can't hit him.
Yep, you
Um,
cannot.
yeah, he starts with a move that brings his evasion all the way to max. Like you can't hit it.
Oh,
And and
oh
and, it, and if
wow.
you know anything about the way press turn works, you don't want to miss.
Oh yeah.
It
You
ends
do
your
not
turn.
want to miss.
It ends your fucking turn.
You don't want to miss, or you do not want to hit like a
Or a
null
weakness.
or a
Yes,
block.
yes, because
Yeah,
it ends your turn. It ends your
yeah,
fucking turn.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and if you like screw up, you lose 2 of your press turns.
yes, yes.
Yeah,
And so so you either have to bring your evasion and accuracy up to Matador's level, or you have to lower his. You have to.
yeah,
Otherwise, you
yeah,
literally can't. And at the same time, he's dealing tons of damage to you. So he's a real
yeah,
gut check. He's a real fucking gut check. But I loved every
yeah.
minute of it. Like everybody remembers their first time getting bodied by the fucking Matador. Everybody who plays that game.
Whew, yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
it's
I'll definitely I'll definitely look forward to that whenever I play SMT4 or SMT3. Sorry.
100%. So have you played any of Mario Wonder?
I have not yet. I've been playing Spider-Man more so, and I will play Mario Wonder eventually. I haven't gotten it yet, but one of my friends said like, "Hey, since it's physical, I'll just let you borrow my copy, so I'll play it
Nice,
eventually."
nice.
And I've seen a lot of people play it, and I've seen a lot of gameplay, and I've seen some friends play it on Discord and stuff. It looks like a whole lot of fun, so I'm very excited to give it a
It's a
shot.
whole lot of fun, but I gotta say, the difficulty's just not there. And I don't
Yeah,
know if
it's
that's
not.
just because it's not. And I don't know if that's just because I've played these games for so many fucking years and I'm just really good at them. That could be it. I don't think that's it though.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, like I
You
go
just
back
wish that it was a little more difficult in that
I
sense?
wish it ramped up gradually. So if you look at like a perfect difficulty curve, I think of a game like Super Mario Brothers 3, where once you start getting around World 4, you're starting to feel it. And by the time you get to like World 7 and 8, like you're fighting for your fucking life. And that's the way it should be. And the density of those games. Now Mario Wonder has the density. So let me start with what I love. I love the Flower Kingdom. Love it as a
Yeah.
planet. It feels like
The
an action.
silliness and the zaniness of it. It looks
Well,
really
and just
unique.
how different it is from the Mushroom Kingdom, and how it
Yeah.
has every area has its own flora and fauna. Like it's got its own wildlife that makes sense. Like you've got hippos and buffalo roaming the plateau, and you've got these underground creatures. It all makes fucking sense. And
Yeah.
it gives us new enemies to fight. It gives us new areas. It makes sense aesthetically. So, like, say Puff Puff Peaks, you start in a snow area, and then gradually climb the mountain into the sky and cloud area. Something right out of fucking Mario 3, where you get in the castle and you end up in the sky in the second half of World 5, right?
Mhm.
Really cool shit. Just like that comes from Jack and the Beanstalk, literally, man.
Yeah.
Um, the fact that literally it's called Wonder, so it literally is an allusion to its inspirations of like Oz and Wonderland, and that's where Mario's
Yeah.
inspirations initially come from. I find that to be really cool. I love the weightiness to Mario, to the way Mario feels. He kind of feels in between, and it was Digital Foundry said this, and it's true. It feels a little bit in between the precision of Super Mario World and the weighty feel of Mario Brothers 3, and I love it. I fucking love how the game feels. It's a joy to play. It's an absolute joy to play. Um, I love how dangerous Bowser feels. Like you literally get a sense of Bowser's evil throughout the realm. Like as you travel, there's all these different problems. Like there's like Bowser Jr. stolen all the water in one area, and in the other area, you just get to see. I don't want to spoil too much. Not that there's much to spoil. It's a fucking
Mhm.
Mario
Yeah.
game. But there's these
Yeah.
little vignettes. Like if you remember at the end of Super Mario World or at the end of Worlds in Super Mario Brothers 3, you'd get a letter from
Mhm.
Peach or you'd get this, and so our
Yeah.
heroes journeyed on after smashing the
Yeah.
castle. It,
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah. I remember
that
that in Mario World, yeah.
that cohesion is back. It gives you
Oh,
those little, yeah,
nice.
it gives
Cool,
you those little
cool.
snippets of what you're doing. In
So it actually has more of a story.
a little bit, yeah. It has world building, is what I'll call it.
Okay.
Which is what Mario needs is world building. So I love that aspect of it. Love that aspect of it. Um, I'm mixed on the Wonder Seeds, which is what everybody's fucking raving about. Let me tell you why. The Wonder Seeds to me reek of I can smell that 3D Mario stank infesting my
Yeah,
fucking beloved 2D Mario, and I don't know how to
yeah.
feel about that. So I've always said that I would love for 2D Mario to get the same big budget treatment as 3D Mario gets. And Nintendo, I think Nintendo has heard me say that, not me directly, but lots of people like me, 2D Mario fans, say that we want these two series to get equal treatment. I want 2D Mario to get the same treatment as 3D Mario. And they did it,
Hmm.
but not necessarily all the way in the way I wanted them to. It's kind of that be careful what you wish for, that monkey's paw shit. Because
Yeah,
I got 3D Mario, I did get the 3D Mario attention to detail in the animations, and I got it in the visuals. It's beautiful. The game is just beautiful in its attention to detail and
yeah,
its graphical bells and whistles. But I didn't get it in the sound. I like the instrumentation. I like the way I like the music. But imagine that same fucking music if it had the full orchestral score that the 3D games have.
yeah,
Absolutely would have been better. 100% would have been better. And instead, what we got is we got gimmick Mario. And what I mean is,
yeah.
instead of focusing on the precision platforming, a lot of stages when you get the Wonder Seed devolve into a gimmick, just like the 3D games. So each stage has this one gimmick that gets used and never used again, and it's a wow moment. They create that surprise. They create that moment of wow, right? The problem with the
Yeah,
problem with revolving your entire gameplay around a wow moment is it's only good one time.
yeah.
So in subsequent playthroughs of levels, I'm bored fucking shitless because there's no difficulty.
Yeah, there's no originality between the levels, I guess.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's lots of originality, but only once.
No, originality meaning like there's no newness from one level to the next in that way.
Well, there is. It's the wonder effect.
Okay.
But that's the thing.
No, yeah, from the wonder effect. Yes.
Once you're
Yeah.
used to the wonder effect, it's a one-time high is what I'm trying to say. Most of the wonder effects also have a problem, which is they make the level easier, not harder. So the level actually
Mhm.
gets easier when you activate the wonder effect, not more difficult. There's some wonder effects where it's literally just like a musical thing where everybody's singing to you and shit. Or there's one wonder effect where there's star showers that hit and you're constantly invincible, but it doesn't but there's no
Yeah.
use for that invincibility. So you're constantly invincible. So one stage I think back to is a special stage. I think it's Mondo, it's called in Mario World, where it uses a similar idea, whereas you're reliant. You have to have the superstar in order to beat the level. And there's actually a barrier. If you don't have the superstar activated, you can't even complete it. But what this means is you have to constantly continue to get the superstars as you plow through these hordes of enemies. And that's the whole level in Mondo, I think. It's either Tubular or Mondo, it's called.
Yeah.
But it gives you a reason to have that star activated, because if you don't have that star activated, you're not making it to the end of this level. Whereas it's the same fucking level, they just started showering you with superstars. So you just
Mhm.
run through it just like you'd run through the level normally. And you can speed run this normally. There's not any real barrier in your way. And so it's that kind of thing to where it's the gimmicks of 3D Mario thrown into a 2D Mario game. And it's fun. It's fun once, but I don't know how much fun it's going to be on replay, especially since I'm in World 5 and I still don't see the difficulty ramping up. Not in my opinion, not enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I'm mixed on.
Interesting.
That's what I'm mixed on.
Yeah.
And what I absolutely hate, and this is a small hate, is I hate the fucking Wonder Flowers. I hate the
Yeah.
goddamn flowers. I want to jettison these motherfuckers into the sun. And
Yeah.
the reason why is look at like Mario's part of what the appeal of Mario is discovering the secrets on your own. These these loudmouth bastards literally tell you exactly where the secrets are, or they hint strongly.
Oh,
Secret.
they spoil the
Yeah,
puzzles and the secrets and stuff.
I think you're missing something. Like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And
You can turn them off in the game though,
no,
right?
no,
Did
you
you do
can't.
that?
No, you can't
Oh, you
because
cannot. I
you
thought you
can
could turn them off.
you can pick your poison. Either you can turn the voice off or you can turn the text off, but not both.
Oh, okay,
You
okay.
can't turn them all the
Oh,
way
so
off.
regardless, they'll still give you the answers. They'll still tell you where to go.
Sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes they just have snarky dialogue, which is it's okay. I mean, but I really hate I want to find the secrets for myself. I don't need
Yeah,
the fucking
that's
talking.
a little yeah, that's a little
So
annoying.
I hate that. I hate that shit. Get that the fuck out of my game. Like, or let me turn it off. Kind of like Mega Man 11. Like Mega Man 11 had like every time you would activate your gear, like you'd hear power gear, power gear, power
Yeah.
gear, and like every time I'm like, oh my god, I've got to be able to turn this fucking voice off, or I can't do this. And they let you. Capcom thankfully gave you the option to turn Mega Man's voice off.
Yeah.
Because I don't need Mega Man sounding like a castrato or like a little boy. I need
Yeah.
and spamming power gear in my ear. I don't need that.
Yeah.
I want a badass sci-fi story where humanity's fighting for its fucking life against a robot horde, and you as a fighting robot are the only fucking hope. I want more Proto Man. I want less Mega Man the cartoon show. That's my
Mhm.
envisioning of Mega Man. And so if they gave us the option to turn off the talking flowers, that would probably raise it like a half percentage point in my book. But the fundamental structure of Wonder does leave some to be desired. Now, that said, do I recommend Wonder as a 2D Mario game? Yes, I do.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah,
do
from what
think
I've
it's
seen it seems like it checks a lot of the boxes.
I do think objectively speaking, it's a better game. It's a better game than any of the new games. I do think objectively speaking, it's beneath World and beneath 3. But I would actually, as a game, put it above 1 if I take my nostalgia goggles off.
Mhm.
So I think it fits very comfortably in the pantheon of 2D Mario games. Despite my reservations on
Yeah.
it, 100%. So
That's cool. I've heard a lot of positive things about it, and I'm very excited to play it. Cause
yeah, yeah,
it like I really enjoyed Mario 3 and Mario World back in the day. Of course, I enjoyed the new Super Mario Bros. Games as well, but they did get stale. So I'm glad they're trying something new and going back to what made 2D Mario so iconic. So yeah,
yeah. The main things I hated about the new games were the music. I fucking hated that music so much. I hated it. I
yeah,
hated it.
very basic music, very very basic.
So there's
Yeah.
that, and then also there is the it's not so much the graphics and the animation which gets shit on a lot. It's the world. It's plains world, desert world, frost world.
Yeah, yeah. I think you even said that during like the reaction to the Mario Wonder Direct.
I was
You're like,
worried.
"Oh, it's just like yeah,
Mhm.
it's a jungle, it's a desert, it's an ice world." Yeah,
They
that's
surprised
understandable.
they surprised me. They surprised the shit out of me.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
That's good. That's
Wonder's
good to
world.
hear.
Flower Kingdom is good. Flower Kingdom is a legit place. It feels
That's good.
distinct
That's
from
good to
Mushroom
hear.
World.
That's
So,
good.
yep, I like that. So, all righty. So, do you have any questions for me? This is the time where I let you
Um,
fire off some shit at me.
I um, let's see. I guess the big question I want to tell you, and then one closing remark I want to give concerning Xenoblade and Xenoblade 2 after that question. But first, I want to ask you, what game out of the two did you prefer better? Xenoblade 1 or Xenoblade 2? Which was your preferred game after completing both of them now?
2 speaks to me.
And I know you said like the cohesive experience is better than one, better in one, the story is better in two, but like just looking at both games objectively, which one do you prefer?
2.
Okay, that's very interesting because I remember I kept telling you on Twitter in my replies, Zoo, you gotta play Xenoblade 2, you gotta give it a shot, you gotta play it. In my head, I was like, I don't think he's gonna like it. And like in my head, I
Yeah,
was like, I don't think he'll see past like the silliness and the anime, but you did, and I'm very, very, very happy that you did. because
Yeah.
like it's a very profound, very good, very thought-provoking series. Like Xenoblade is a series that I found in my life when like I discovered it in 2020, way later
Okay.
than everyone else. But like before like I discovered Xenoblade, like 2018 and 2019 were times in my life where it was very turbulent. It was just not a very good time in my life.
Sure.
And then Xenoblade came, and it kind of made me like rethink a lot of my goals, my aspirations, how I feel about myself and everyone else around me. And then two came along. When I finished one, I was like, oh, I have this very like positive, profound sense of like what I want for myself and like everything else in the future. Then I played two, and two was crazy because I see a lot of myself and especially a lot of my past self in Rex. So I was like, whoa, this is such a weird kind of experience. I'm playing this game with a character I never really related to that much. And that's also attributed to the fact that I was so picky with Rex. I was like, oh, Rex is doing this, Rex is doing that. And then I realized I was like, oh, if I was in a situation, I would do a lot of the similar things to him in that way as well. But going back to Xenoblade 2, especially this year and after beating Xenoblade 3, is very interesting because I am seeing a lot of things that I either missed out or I didn't really understand initially the first time going into it. And coming back to that game a few years later with a more mature mindset, it's very humbling and gratifying. And yeah, it's just a very great series, and I'm very happy that you very open-mindedly took the opportunity to give it a shot. And I'm really happy that you enjoyed it. It's a really beautiful series and an amazing game and everything. So yeah.
Well, that's one of the accolades I get more than anything. Like Rush Dog loves to talk about this is my open mindedness. Like so, for example, I'm a stubborn ass for sure. But if you have good arguments or if the product is good, it can win me over. And so my Xenoblade
Yeah.
story, my Xenoblade 2 story is kind of interesting. So I bought Xenoblade 2. I bought it like day one. I was
Yeah.
super excited for it. And I played it, and I'm just like, what the fuck is this battle system, man?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
I don't blame you. The battle system is they did they did a good job designing that battle system, but they did
it's
not
a good
do a good job with teaching you how to like
it's a
understand that
good
battle.
system, but yeah, but basically, and what sucks is I basically off ramped on that game the first playthrough. I basically off ramped it right before I got to that second Titan that is just beautiful. Like,
Yeah, Uriah, yeah, the best one in the game.
oh my god, it's beautiful. I could
Yeah,
explore that fucking
amazing.
place all day. I got serious Satori Marsh at night vibes in that.
Oh yeah, yeah, it is
Like,
definitely the
oh, it's so
Satoral
good.
Marsh version of All Rest. Yeah,
It's so good. And if I had played just a little longer, I think it would have hooked me. Because that was
yeah,
worth
and
getting
it,
just
it
for
did
that.
now. It did this year.
It did. It did a good job.
Yeah,
And so, and then again, this game, philosophically, there are games that just speak to you, and it's the most nuanced examination of pessimism and nihilism I've ever seen in a game. This is a game that is full of people who have basically lost their fucking souls. Like, there are not many good people in this world based on the circumstances of the world around them. Like, Banna is a fucking monster. Um,
yeah.
fucking
That Banner sucks. That Malthus sucks.
yeah.
Um, and even like a lot of like, okay, so
Well, and
remember
look
how I
at
said
each
exercise
character.
and patience, right?
Yeah,
So like there was a part in Xenoblade 2 in chapter 4 where you're going and you're helping out these little kids in Gormont, and I'm like, what is this like? I don't understand what's going on. I don't know like why I'm supposed to do this. And then I realized I was like all that negativity, all that corruption, all that like disheartened feeling about what's happening around in the world, it's like seeped into like the mindset of these kids,
hmm,
and Rex wants to help them out as well.
yeah.
So I realized even that like filler quote unquote part in the story still had some meaning to it as well.
Well, and if you look at Malos, and that's why I can't say that's why he's more of a pessimist because Malos's view was that this world is such a wretched place that
Yeah.
he's doing everybody a favor by ending it.
Oh yeah.
Like that was literally his perspective. He's like, I'm doing you all a kindness by ending this
Yeah,
story.
exactly.
But again, one of my favorite lines comes from your little Titan buddy that was a Titan and became a little animal guy.
Oh yeah, yeah. Azurda, yeah.
Zerda, what he says, hey, don't forget that you two are a part of this
Don't
world.
forget you were part of this world as well. Yeah, he says that. Yeah.
You are a part of this world. If it wasn't for you and a Malthus, Jin might have taken a very different track in life.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So take some fucking responsibility. Like, yeah, the world is a wretched place. You've helped make it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you have,
Yeah.
with your actions, you've helped do it. And I love that. And it's also
Yeah.
flashbacks to one of my other favorite stories, which is Lord of the Rings. Which is literally where he said, remember how Pippin and Took, remember how they convinced the Ents? They say, you're a part of this world. Like
Yep.
they're like, yeah, the world doesn't care about us. Well, yeah, it doesn't matter if the world. You should care about the world because you have to be a part of this fucking world, guys. They're burning it down, man.
Yeah.
That's how he got. That's how they helped convince and rally the Ents to battle against Saruman. Didn't
Yep.
work. Didn't work
Yeah.
with Malos though. Didn't work with Malos.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was a good
But
story.
you eventually got Malus to kind of realize, hey, what if I was Rex's blade? What if Rex is my driver? Maybe things could have been a little different.
Absolutely, 100%, 100. So you say
Yeah.
you identify with Rex. Does that mean you're going to be jacked in in like a couple decades? You're going to be like this jacked.
Well, Rex is I'll just say Rex is an inspiration to me in
I've
many
seen him.
ways of
I've
life.
seen him in 3. He's a jack Chad.
Yeah, I don't want to say too much about Rex and what happens to him in 3, but uh
He definitely hit
he
the weights.
he does some things.
He definitely hit
Yeah,
the
he
weights.
definitely hits the gym a lot. Yeah, but
Holy shit,
yeah,
man!
I'll just say this, Rex's legacy is seen a lot throughout Xenoblade 3, and it
Awesome,
is
awesome.
like it's it's very, very cool how they've done it, and I don't wanna say too much, and just experience it for yourself, it's great. You'll see.
So I guess one thing I do want to touch on is the sales of Xenoblade. Like it seems
Oh,
like,
yeah.
and the story's not over yet, but we're at 1.86 million as of March 2023 for Xenoblade. Xenoblade 2's moved 2.7 million, and it's not just
Mhm.
Xenoblade's problem. It just seems like this is a trend throughout the games industry. Why?
Yeah.
Why the fuck is it that these franchises continue to see diminishing returns like they do? Like these are good games. These are
Yeah.
legitimately good games, and yet
Yeah, they're good, I
Every
think,
every every
you're
new game is a step down from what came before. Like,
yeah. Well, actually, no, I think, well, 2 is the highest selling in the series,
oh,
and I
am I
think
seeing something wrong
yeah.
here? Then I guess maybe I'm reading something
Yeah,
wrong.
2 is the highest selling in the series. I think you might be seeing 1 combine the sales of all 3 of its versions. It
Oh
might be
yeah, no,
combining
that's
Xenoblade.
not, yeah, that's not fair, homie. Yeah, can't do that.
Yeah,
That's exactly what's going.
Xenoblade 1 on the Wii probably hit just about 1,000,000.
Yeah,
Xenoblade
and that's
3D
what you have to
did
look
not hit
at.
1,000,000.
Yeah.
Xenoblade X, it hit 800K, didn't even hit 1,000,000.
Oh
Xenoblade
no,
2
it's
hit
there.
about
Yeah,
yeah,
it's 1.28,
yeah, and then
1.28 now.
yeah, but the thing is with Xenoblade 2 and 3 in particular, they could be like 5, 6, 7 million seller games. But the
They
thing
deserve.
is, there are a few things which are massive barriers of entry to the general audience. I have noticed with just people like your average consumer who might play something like Persona or Fire Emblem or Final Fantasy as a JRPG instead of Xenoblade, they see a very complex combat system that just flies over their head. They see very obtuse and very out there character designs, which are not truly indicative of who those characters are.
Right. So
They
let's
see
stop and talk about that real quick. Yeah,
yeah,
because now you and I both we partake of anime. So you
yeah,
and I both know just how bad this can actually get. That's why it doesn't phase us too much, I think.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I gotta be honest with you. When I see a character, and maybe I'm misreading this character, I don't know. When I see a character like Nopon 2, that's what I call him because you have Nopon 1, which was
Mhm.
Ricky. You have Nopon 2. There's always a Nopon. And I can't be
Tora,
bothered
yeah.
to learn. Okay, Poro. So when you see Poro
Tora.
or Tora, when you see Tora and you see Poppy, his blade,
Yeah.
and Poppy is obviously designed to look like a young girl, and there's some innuendo there that I'm not entirely comfortable with, which is why they didn't end
Yeah.
up in the party a lot. Like, I don't know. Do you think that can be off-putting to some people? Even though that's again
Yes,
in terms of
it is
animu,
off-putting to
this
some.
is not nearly as bad as it could be.
Yeah, that I've heard that from a lot of people that it is very off-putting to them in that way. But another thing is Tora is like a child, and
Okay.
he is I think he's one of the he's a bottom tier, absolute bottom tier Xenoblade party member, and a
Oh
lot of the
yeah, yeah.
time in
I
the
didn't
story.
remember his goddamn name. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the time in the story, they just have to tell him, "Tora, stop being stupid and just kinda, just be, present, be, understanding of the situation around you." And then he grows and he matures and he grows up throughout the story.
Okay.
But a lot of the problems with Tora comes from him just being, a young, stupid Nopon. And that is it's understandable that some scenes and some parts of the game can be off-putting, whether it is Tora's scene with Poppy, even though it is
Yeah.
just a few handful of times that it happens in the game, it is still present and it happens. Or Pyra and Mithra's character designs. But
Which
what
they,
I
which
tell people,
people that freak out about that, like, bro, like you're playing a game where you get your back blown out by a bear, or where Abby
yeah,
gets plowed from behind. Like
exactly,
you're good with that.
exactly.
OJ from
Yeah.
Player Essence made that fucking point. He's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
bro, you're getting
Baldur's Gate 3,
yeah,
yeah.
you're getting plowed by a fucking bear, and you're fucking
Yeah.
celebrating Abby getting her back blown out. Like from
Yeah.
I don't want to hear. Stop the cap, man. Stop that shit.
Yeah,
What the
but
fuck
the
are you
thing
doing, man?
what I tell people about all this stuff is I tell them that when it comes to Xenoblade 2 specifically, because Xenoblade 1 and 3 are not as fan servicey at all. They're not from the content in the game, they just are not as fan servicey. So that's one thing. It's only Xenoblade 2, and the thing with Xenoblade 2 is those fan servicey moments are few and far between. It's majority of the game is existential dread, very sad,
One
very
hundred percent.
impactful, very emotional moments, very character driven moments in the cutscenes and the game and the character moments and the writing and all that. And then maybe sprinkled here and there, once, twice, thrice throughout the game are some silly anime fan servicey stupid moments, and then you go back to the really serious storytelling that Takahashi has.
Right, but
So that's just how I see
it's
it.
so misrepresented, yeah, like in social media
Yeah,
and shit. The other thing is, do you think the 100-hour fucking length also possibly does that?
yeah,
The reason for
yeah. It is. Yeah,
oh man, and again, I enjoyed every
yeah.
minute
It
of
is.
it, but as a working person, I got to tell you, like I only have a few of these games in me a year. These 100-hour fucking monoliths. Like,
Yeah, they're big and they're long and they take up a lot of your time because you want to play other games, you want to do other things in life as well. And yeah, they're they're quite the time sink.
yeah, I think that's part.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that might be the biggest barrier in. But I don't know because you have other
Yeah.
games like I was talking to Belmont. Castlevania also has a sales problem, like a legit sales problem, and these are not
Mm,
games that take 100 fucking hours to do. So I think it's an industry wide thing. I think that basically, if not every game is going to be a Spider Man or a Mario or a Zelda, like they're just not,
yeah.
and that's okay. I mean, I think
Yeah.
honestly, I think Nintendo's pretty happy with what Xenoblade clicks.
I think Xenoblade is doing very well, and especially like Monolith Soft and Takahashi, I think they're very happy with what's happening with Xenoblade
Well, especially
because
if you look at the
it's
genre, if you look at comparisons to the genre, like it's up there
yeah,
with the
yeah,
top.
JRPGs don't usually cross 10 million in sales. Like unless you're Dragon Quest 11, Final Fantasy 7 or something like that, you won't often cross the 10 million mark.
Well, it's really
And
sobering, yeah. If you look at even the old school sales, like even adjusted for population growth, like Chrono Trigger, like it was. I think when I was talking to OJ, we were talking about this because that's one of his favorite games too, and it's one of my
yeah,
favorite games of all time. But look at the fucking sales of Chrono Trigger for all the effort that
yeah,
game took, and when they ported it to the DS, that game ended up in the fucking bargain bins, dude. Like
mm,
that game ended up in bargain bins.
despite it being the best version of Chrono Trigger as well.
It's is it? Yeah, again, I don't know. I've never played, but I remember distinctly ended up in the bargain bins, and I remember being very upset by that. Like
Yeah,
you disgusting gamers don't know what the fuck you're missing. Like that's terrible. But
yeah,
again, the situation is what it is, and that game being fucking bargain bin, like yeah, that's why Square. Why don't we have Chrono Trigger on the Switch yet? That's why right there. Why don't we have another
yeah,
Earthbound? That's why.
yeah.
Because until we can get this genre more mainstream, it's a risk. It's a fucking risk.
Yeah, it's just a barrier of entry when it comes to combat, when it comes to length, when it comes to content in the games, when it comes to sometimes even the profound storytelling. People just aren't into that.
Well,
They want their popcorn flick.
they
So
want their
yeah,
popcorn ass Sony games, is Juice Man Vaughn likes to say. Um,
yes, yeah,
these
I
popcorn
remember him
ass,
saying
yeah,
that.
popcorn ass games. But and again, I like popcorn ass games too on occasions. So now that brings me to Sea of Stars. So I think we might finally be seeing a sea change because let's talk about Sea of Stars and how fucking good that game's doing sales wise.
Yeah,
Holy
I
hell!
can't stay on for too much longer, but I'll say this. I'm nearing the end of Sea of Stars. It's very good. I the thing that really set my expectations up really high for Sea of Stars was people comparing it to Chrono Trigger, and the story is very good. The story is very, very, very good in Sea of Stars, but it took a while to get very good. Whereas Chrono Trigger immediately hooked you, and the
Yeah.
pacing was phenomenal with the plot and the pacing and all of that. The things that happen are just amazing, and it keeps getting better and better and better. For Sea of Stars, it has a little bit more of a lead up to it, which was fine, but I just prefer if that pacing was a little better. But
Yeah,
otherwise, the combat is good. The level design is great. The art style is amazing, and the
beautiful.
combat, like the music is what is like
I would expect so,
outstanding.
considering the pedigree of some of those composers, like literally the Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
So I guess so. Let's do this. Let's try to measure it. So Chrono Trigger is So you've got a football field, and the end zone is Chrono Trigger, right? So I
Yeah.
guess we'll start. Is Sea of Stars even in the stadium?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's in the
Okay,
stadium.
so
Yeah.
right off the bat, we're doing good. Is it on the field?
Oh yeah. I think it's on the field.
It's on the field. We're doing so right off the bat. That's better than just about any other fucking game out. Now, my last question. Now that it's on the field, what line are we on? What line on the field are we on?
Oh, that is tough. The thing is, I don't want to get your. I
Touchdown
don't want
being
to
Chrono
get
Trigger.
your.
Touchdown being it's literally Chrono Trigger. So it's not going to be that. But
It's not a touchdown, but it's getting there. I will say that.
would you say it's on the
It,
40-yard
like
line?
I would say it's around there. But the thing is,
Okay.
I also don't want to get your expectations too high because I know you're waiting for the physical on this.
Yeah, I'm
It's
sorry.
good. It's a very good game. I just think always comparing it to Chrono Trigger in my mind built up incredibly lofty expectations.
Fair.
But then when I realized what this game is doing on its own as its own identity, that's what made me enjoy it even more.
That's
Chrono
important.
Trigger is something that I don't think Chrono Trigger is something that can ever be replicated ever again.
It
So
can.
that's one thing. Yeah,
it came
and
from some of the most brutal crunch it's ever been in Square Enix, by the way. So I don't know if we
yeah,
want to. I don't know if I
I
want
I
that for the
do
devs.
yeah, I do also after Sea of Stars, I'm very curious to give the game Chained Echoes a shot. I'm very curious to try that game
I
and
hear
see what
good
it's
shit
like.
about Chained Echoes. Now that I'll be waiting on till that I'll be waiting until
Yeah,
fucking we fall into the sea on that goddamn game because that's first press games and first press games has never shipped a game to my knowledge. So
yeah,
I could be wrong about that, but there's one game that's over 2 years old I've been fucking waiting on from those fucking guys. And again, I don't care. I've got a big enough backlog. So full disclosure, I don't care that it takes long, but just please ship my
yeah,
game. Please ship my game is all I ask. Because I'm getting kind of nervous.
yep,
Once you get in that 2+ year mark, I get a little fucking nervous. Um, well, especially with very few scant updates. So we're on the football field. We're on the 40-yard line ish. That's enough to excite me. But I'm excited it has its own identity. That is very important. Because here's the thing, like you're right, it's never going to be Chrono Trigger again. But to be fair and to counterpoint that, I'm not the one who said that. That was them.
mhm,
They're the ones who said we want to be a Final Fantasy 3 or 6. We want to be a Chrono Trigger. That was them that said that. That we want to be a
yeah,
Secret of Mana. So if you're gonna say
yeah,
that, I'm gonna hold you to that.
yep,
But
yeah.
and I will measure you against that. But if here's the thing, I'm fair. You've read my shit. I'm fair. If you are even on the fucking field, you're gonna get
Oh,
good vibes from
it's
me.
100% on the field.
Yep.
I
If you're in the
I
stadium,
just
you're gonna
I
get good
can't.
vibes.
Yeah, it definitely makes the stadium and the field
Beautiful.
like
Then it's gonna be great.
checkpoints.
I'm gonna love it.
I think it's like on the road to Chrono Trigger's touchdown. It's on the way there, but
I'm on, and I'm
it
gonna
doesn't
love
reach it. Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. It's a very very well made
it.
game. It's
So
very there's a lot of love and thought and care put into this game, and it really surprised me a lot of times.
well,
So yeah,
let's get this. Let's go ahead and do the comments. That way we can let you go. So, and then I'll ask one last question of you.
yeah,
I've got congrats
sure.
on 90 subs, Zoo. Am I at 90 subs? Oh,
You
okay.
are. You're 10 away from 100. It's a
Holy
big
shit.
milestone.
Okay. See, I don't even
I
get
remember
much
when I
attention.
hit 100 subs last year. It was a pretty big milestone.
Wow. Okay. I've only been doing this for like 8 months, so I don't know. Is that a good rate or is
Yeah.
it slow?
No, that's very good.
Okay.
It took me a year and a half to get to 100 subs. I'll say
Oh
that.
shit. Okay, so for somebody who's not even fucking trying, I guess that's pretty cool. So
That's very good. Yeah.
okay,
Congrats.
wow. All right, neat.
Keep it up.
In a very competitive red ocean space, by the way. So that's wow. We'll have to do something special for
Oh
the
yeah,
hundo,
100%.
and maybe we can get there by my birthday. I don't think so. So just saying,
What month is your birthday?
it's November 2nd. We ain't gonna do it. We're not gonna make.
Oh, nice.
We're not
Nice.
gonna make it by the birthday.
Yeah.
Gonna have to sit this one
I mean,
out.
you never know. You just need 10 people to hit that subscribe button.
10 people, but I don't ask for it. I make it a point not to ask
Yeah.
do that. So
Yeah.
maybe I need to start every once in a while to say, hey, hit the what is it, the star? Everybody laughed at that. I called instead of the bell, I called it the star or some shit. That's how much I give a shit about this. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway, so Rush Dog says gonna have to sit this one out. Haven't played Xenoblade. Totally understandable, Rush, and you're here for almost every fucking one. So absolutely take a break. Take a break from my drunk ass. It's good for you every once in a while. Mad Belmont says, howdy, folks. Zoo, I knew I fucking liked you for a reason, bro. I love Iron Maiden. Up the irons, baby.
Yep.
Old school Maiden fan. I've been to so many of their fucking shows, too. It's my favorite band in the world. They're great people, too. Well, I know for a fact one's a great person, but they're cool cats. And they're still fucking doing this, and they've got their own fucking plane, which is so rock star. That Bruce Dickinson flies, by the way. So not
Yeah.
only is he singing, but he also flies. He's their pilot too. So that's an amazing group of people. And then Belmont says, gonna switch y'all to the TV real quick so I can play some more Return to Castle Wolfenstein. Sounds like a good time, man. And that's pretty much it. Not a lot kicking on today because it's Friday and people have shit to do, so I get that. But with that said, do you have any final questions for me before we tap this out?
I don't have anything for you. I just whenever Sea of Stars comes out, keep me updated on what you think of it. Like
Definitely.
once you get your physical, it'll be sometime next year, so you'll have a lot of time to prep for it. But it's very good. It's a highlight for this year for me.
Yeah,
So
I
I'll
got
just
burned again
let you know that.
I got burned again in a way, and I'm kind of glad because full disclosure, I didn't know it was going to get a retail release, and it wasn't announced that there was going to be a retail release, so I went ahead and backed it, and I paid the backing fee to get the physical, and then turns out
Okay.
they got a retail release. So full disclosure, for the first fucking time, and I hate this, I've got to tell everybody, hey, full disclosure, I did back this game on BackerKit.
Yep.
Um, I
Nice.
I fucking hate that I have to do that. God damn it.
Yeah.
But it's I see that as an otherwise blemish. But I did it to buy the game. I bought the game. That's why I did it.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
costs like $60.
You're
Heck,
part of the development process in that way.
that's the problem though. So I do
Yeah.
have skin in the game there, but what I'll do is I'll just disclose it, and if people want to throw my opinion out, totally understand that. Fuck, I might if I heard that about somebody, but I hate that I did that now because now, yeah, I gave I'm part of the game. I'm part of the process for sure, and that needs to be disclosed, and we need to be better about that shit.
Yeah.
In general, and I think a lot of YouTubers are. I'm not calling anybody out or anything, but and I think there's some legal requirements to it, so maybe they have to. But I hate it because I rail about this exact kind of shit, but it was the only way to get the physical. It was the only way to get the physical at the
Yeah.
time. And I almost did it for Mina the Hollower too, and I didn't because I know that's a Devolver game. It's gonna get a fucking retail release. So I rolled the dice on Mina the Hollower, but hopefully that gets a
Mhm.
physical because I'm not doing this again. But anyway, that ran aside. I got one last question for you. Did you have fun?
Mhm. I did most definitely have fun. Anytime talking about Xenoblade and music and rock music and anything like that is always a good time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure to be on here. And yeah, thanks for having me on. Thanks for giving Xenoblade a open-minded and honest shot because
Always willing to give
most
something an
people can't do that in this modern gaming day and age. So
always.
thank you.
Oh fuck! If I can give 3D Mario a second chance, I could absolutely do it for Xenoblade 2.
Yeah,
God,
it's one of Nintendo's finest, I have to say.
oh my god, I've still got to play Mario. I've still got to play Super Mario 3D All Stars. Oh my god,
Oh, have fun with that.
I've got to do that for review. To get a physical.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, on that note, with that doom fucking approaching me at some point in my Switch journey, I guess we'll end it there. But chat, you have a good night. I love you all, and get out of here. And if you want to stick around real quick, Nish, for the denouement, we'll end this now. So see you
All
guys
right.
later. Love
Later,
you.